Hey everybody, how's it going? We are here and we are ready to begin in one of those moment things.
Yep. 1 unit of time.
Sure. I,
One standard time unit.
I hope everyone is having a fabulous Tuesday. I am fully healthy again and it feels so good. Except there's
Good.
still kind of snot, it's just dripping.
Yep. At least it was only a week and a half.
True. You had a much worse experience.
I'm being, what's the word? I don't know. I feel.
I'm being, what's the word?
Then he gives up and changes topic.
How's it going, Vale? How's it going, Kiefer? How's it going, Prof? How's it going, Wild Bo? How's it going, PETA? Man, some people that aren't usually in these things, in the live ones. Have your Tuesday, Kiefer. I demand it. I think we're gonna have a pretty good show today.
Yeah.
I just got all excited that you're here, PETA, and now you say you're about to leave. Hello, Earth Shints.
Yeah.
Hey, just Diago.
Yeah.
All right. Are we about ready?
I believe so. Unless we forgot any part of our things. I don't think we did though.
Hey, Sarah. The only thing I just added here at the very end was in the read new donors thing, the thing you realized.
Yes. Gotcha.
I put a note in there, but I don't know what like the name is or anything. So
Do that real quick. Ooh, no.
that would be very gross. A snot elemental. Very gross, but like in a good way.
It's kind of what Gregor is.
Aw, he's so much more than that, though.
Yeah, I'm just gonna put that. All right.
Yeah, that's fine. Just to say, oops, we do bad at checking things that aren't Patreon. Sorry.
Yeah. Plus, there's no automatic like reward level associated with it, so it's just like, okay, well,
yeah. All right, let's do the thing.
Okay. Recordo.
Oh yeah, Thank you for reminding me to do that. Check. Yep, we're good on that front. So
Ditto.
Let's go in. We get to the first page of the script. So let's go in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey everybody, welcome to We've Got Ward, a Doof Media podcast series where we expertly dissect and discuss Ward, Wildbow's return to the world of parahumans. My name is Matt Freeman, and Scott, should we start the show?
I don't know.
Should we not start the show?
Maybe. What do you think?
It's your decision.
Then I suppose I will foolishly plunge ahead. This is the weekly podcast where Matt and I eagerly dive into Wildbow's world of doubt-based combat strategies, indecisive idiots, and alien-based death powers as we analyze and interpret this ongoing web serial. This week we make our way through the fetus-infected battlefield of Arc 11 Blinding with chapters 8.11.8 and 11.b. The fight against Lord of Lost continues with Victoria employing Rain's aura as a kind of super learn-by-failure sense. It works, but it also forces Victoria to spiral to the bad place. A win is a win, though. Right?
Yeah.
Next, we jump into the second interlude of the arc, focusing on Colt and her merry escapades of being a general idiot and stumbling into bad situations. Hooray!
Yay.
Matt, what did you think of these two chapters?
These are really great, extremely tense chapters. So I feel like last week we talked about how the two chapters were horror, like there was a pervasive tone of horror through everything. There's certainly still the horror present, but I want to focus this week maybe more on how that is being employed to the ends of generating an unbelievable level of tension.
Yeah.
Because this isn't just a fight that we're seeing. This is a fight where the stakes are horrifying to us and to our, even more so to our point of view character.
Yeah, it's kind of incredible because, like, I think on a surface level, Victoria's fight is no different than any of the other, like, big fights against Brute she's had throughout this book. But but you add the layer on of everything going on internally with her as she's struggling through this fight, and it just like amplifies it, and like the stakes go up, the tension goes up, the feeling, everything around this fight is cranked up to 11 because she's got, like, while she's attempting to do this, she's being pummeled by her own worst feelings, her own worst doubts, all the things that she's been avoiding thinking about throughout this arc, throughout this book. They all come crashing down on her at the same time while trying to fight one of the most powerful capes she's ever come up against.
Yeah, and then as we'll get into it, I'm sure the second chapter is made extremely tense, not only because there's just this heavy uncertainty sitting on Colt as a character, but also because of the decision to end the 11.8 with this cliffhanger of Victoria checks in on the other teams and sees that they are indeed not doing all right. So you know that something is probably going to go wrong.
Yeah. Well,
and you're just waiting to see what.
And I mean, Colt is so passive throughout the entire chapter that you're like, I mean, in reading a book, you don't normally feel in control of what's going to happen, but at least when your point of view character isn't generally in control, like, you feel a sense of assurance in that at least things are going to go the way the character wants them to go. But Colt is not that type of character. So you just, like, it's like we're kind of like speeding towards this car wreck that we know something's going to go wrong with the team of heroes we care about. But our point of view character has absolutely no control over that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that. All right. Well, as usual, let's head on into these chapters.
Let's do it.
Yeah. So 11.8 opens up, and we continue from where we left off in the last one, with Rain reacting to Victoria's statement that she's figured out the secret use of his power. And he responds, "If you're right, then I'm a big fucking idiot," Precipice said. "That's supposed to be a pick-me-up? Good news?" And in the background, the team kind of low-key banters while Victoria keeps her head on the fight.
Yeah, so funnily enough, Victoria replies no to these questions, but due to the rest of the Heartbroken kind of jumping into that general Heartbroken-esque banter, she doesn't really get to go any further with this. So it's basically like, he says these questions and there's basically like this implicit, yeah, you're a big fucking idiot, but no, It's not supposed to be a pick-me-up. Like, I know that's not technically what she means, but knowing Rain, like, because she doesn't have time to really fill in any of the details of that, like, you gotta assume that's what he's assuming, and that's really hilarious to me.
Yeah, I don't think that read is wrong at all, because she continues to be pretty passive aggressive, and so I don't know if she intended that to be passive aggressive, but kind of it fits with the tone of the rest of what she is saying and how she treats him.
Yeah, I mean, like we talked about last week, throughout the very early part of this whole chapter, we are again seeing this kind of like it's this almost sibling like bickering between these two characters, where like you get the, like, she doesn't want to come right out and say or acknowledge the issue she has with Rain, but like she's kind of sniping from the sidelines at him, whenever, like, taking shots wherever she can, and we'll get into, you know, specific ones of that when we get there, but it's crazy.
Yeah, it's really interesting because, like, she clearly has a problem with him, but I don't think she can fully articulate and like endorse the fact that she has a problem with him. So it just kind of has been festering, and I like that the story is focusing on it now.
Yeah.
And like, so here's an example of kind of what I mean with her, like, not being able to articulate her own problem, because he says, "I'm an expert at being hard on myself. It's either that or I'm the biggest asshole alive, and I'd rather hate myself than be an asshole." Well, not a lot I could say to that. So, like, I just adore this thread of Victoria being, like, maximally too hard on Rain, and then Rain consistently managing to be even harder on himself, to the extent that Victoria is almost wrong-footed by it.
Yeah, how am I supposed to rag on this guy if he keeps ragging on himself? Ugh.
Right.
You know, we joke around about that, but and we have throughout all these chapters, but I think that this is really Victoria's kind of like anti-forgiveness principles coming into conflict with someone who's arguably been the most successful person in the story at seeking and earning whatever you define redemption as. Like, what we've seen in these past few chapters is Victoria just unsure of how to deal with this person. Like, she doesn't know. And this conflicted feeling is adding to the frustration. Like, she doesn't know what to say to him. She doesn't know how to say it, and it leads to that quick frustration and admonishment. But behind it, I think there's still this recognition that he has this inherent guilt complex with all this stuff, and that is showing that he feels bad about what he did and is trying to work towards it. And I think she just has trouble like taking those two different things as her feelings about forgiveness, the fact that he is honestly and earnestly seeking the forgiveness, and marrying these two conflicting things together in her head just creates this general confusion, and she just doesn't know how to handle it. And so she's snippy a little bit, but like, she doesn't, like, the thing to say to him in this moment, Victoria, is, you're probably beating yourself up too much. And she like tries to do that, and he comes back with something, and then she's like, yeah, well, I mean, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Done.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see where their relationship kind of evolved, I guess, from after this, because they haven't been forced to work just the two of them kind of relying on each other in this way. And it's a great story development, I think. Yeah.
And that's kind of what I love about, we talked about this before, but I love that we've split our characters up, and it allows for this kind of one-on-one Victoria and Rain interaction that we just haven't gotten to see throughout the story until this point, since he went through all his big change and progress and things. So, like, yes, we're splitting them up for specific narrative reasons that we'll see in the future, but it also just serves, functionally in the story as a way to zoom in on these guys.
Absolutely. Yep.
And I like that Victoria can't respond to Rain and his guilt complex, but you know who sure can? Chastity. Who says, an alternative precipice, find someone else to show them how hard you can be for them. Having an external pressure release can be very nice. I love it. It's great.
Yeah.
I love that he immediately looks at her and she's like, I didn't mean me.
Yeah.
I just meant beating up some people. And it's like, yeah, you did.
Yeah, he's like, oh, yeah. And he's like, oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
So realistic.
Oh, it's wonderful.
So here, Victoria asks him to use his doubt power on her all out, and he reacts with like incredulity and almost anger, she thinks, and saying it would make sense to try out his power in a safe, controlled environment, not here on the battlefield. And Vicky responds a bit snarkily that powers don't really lend themselves to testing all that well.
I think you're underselling the snarkiness just a bit. I mean, she literally says, fun fact, powers don't actually usually work that way. I'm just going to pull up Internet Explorer, do a quick internet query on all the moments where starting your sentence with fun fact led to a constructive, positive conversation. All right. It's collating. It's processing. Zero times. Starting a sentence with fun fact never leads to any kind of constructive thing. And I love it, because it's not to say that Victoria is wrong here, right? Like, the bad guys are here. They're going to make all of our heroes into like fetus koozies if we don't do something. So like, it makes sense what she's saying here, but yeah, she's being really, really snippy and snarky about it. And it's just like, it's escalating the kind of general tension between the two of them. And that's why I love it. Feels like kind of a sibling barb throwing.
Yeah, it's part of her, like, you dare question me on Cape lore, but also like mixed in with she kind of already doesn't like him that much.
Yeah, there's this little line here that I love. After Rain's tone is detected as angry and incredulous, Victoria thinks a part of that was probably that I was reversing course on things I told him again and again. Yeah, no shit. You just like yelled at him like 3 minutes ago about stop using your aura on me. And it's like, okay, but now I need you to use your aura on me. Like, I know I yelled at you many times in the past, but this time, do it. Of course he's going to be like, what? No.
Yeah, right. I mean, like from an objective point of view, it's almost like he's finally trying to listen to her previous issue, and then he does, and then she reverses it. It's like that's extremely frustrating to the point where you might feel like you're being gaslit. But
yeah, a little bit,
yeah.
bit.
Yeah.
And then the perfect end of this conversation is, "Do your best," I told Precipice. "Do my worst, you mean?" "Yeah," I said. I love, like, I think that's like a perfect encapsulation of this entire conversation they just had, and I love it so much.
Yeah, I do too. I like that.
It's just classic Rain. Do your worst.
Yeah,
because that's what he does. Because he's old screw up Rain.
Old screw up Rain, and if his mission is to screw up, then of course he'll succeed.
Mm-hmm.
So Victoria charges Lord of Loss, with Rain backing her up as the rest of the team tries to find a way out. On her way, she sees and decides to incapacitate two unpowered mercenaries with guns, seemingly not wanting to have to deal with the added wrinkle of people shooting at her while she fights. She actually has a short chat with them after knocking them around, trying to dissuade them from working for Lord of Loss at all.
Yeah, I adore this little interaction, and I think, like, when you're reading it live, you're just like, oh, we're doing this little side thing before we move on to the main event. But actually, this interaction with these guys ends up being pretty important to the conflict that's going on inside Victoria throughout this entire fight. This is a reflection of a lot of the struggle that she had with Lord of Loss in last week's show, where she was arguing with him about his sense of morality and his code and his rules and everything. And we see here that these guys are loyal to LOL because he's providing them homes, a place to live, a place to survive. And if they die in this battle, that's still going to go to their families. And so they're very loyal to this guy who is helping them out. And Victoria tries to make a case. She tries to argue that they're putting their lives in the hands of this madman that will throw away loved ones without care. And they just kind of reject that, say he was very upfront with how his rule system works with us, and we're okay with this. We're fine with it. And I this is fascinating to me because I do think Lord of Loss is a monster. I think later in this chapter we'll see him kind of gleefully throw capes into Nursery's baby face hugger grossness. And I think his prioritization of his job is like just a great justification to kind of let yourself do whatever you want. I think this rule-based system that he has is like a great excuse for just doing whatever. But I do love that this system kind of flies right in the face of Victoria's general system. Her general idea of right and wrong and always do good and always trying to be bringing people together. And she's not quite sure how to respond to it, right? She doesn't know how to counter this kind of ideology. And we see here that she doesn't get it either. She disarms these guys, but she convinces them of nothing. She wishes that she'd have a long time to sit down and have a long conversation with these guys, but she doesn't get that. But I don't know if, like, the assumption here is I want a long time to sit with them. The assumption here is that if I just had like an hour to sit down with these guys and explain to them, I would be able to convince them that the things they believe in, the things they're doing, the people they're supporting are wrong. I don't know. I think these guys countered what her best argument was, which is just, this guy's a bad guy and you're supporting the bad guy who's doing terrible things, and it doesn't seem to faze them.
Yeah, I mean, to take like from their view, the world has ended. They're doing everything they possibly can to try to keep themselves and their loved ones like fed and alive. And her perspective is like, yeah, the way we do that is we keep civilization on its feet. And in order to do that, we have to do all these complicated things involving having a united front of law enforcement and heroes against the villains and the chaotic bad guys. And they're just like, look, that's all. I mean, I'm imagining this conversation of them just kind of being like, that's all well and good, but all I can really do is take care of my family.
Yeah,
like
I need a house. You're great. I wish I would follow your strict code and your strict copying. That would be great, but that would leave me without a house. And this guy's gonna give me a house.
Right.
So
yeah, I'm glad you pulled out that moment where she thinks to herself, I wish I'd had a long time to sit down and talk to them, because it's just such it's almost a jarring thought in the middle of this fight, where she's like, her priority in the middle of this fist fight is, I want to talk to these guys.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's certainly to me an endearing quality of hers because she is so convinced of the rightness of her actions and the rightness of her character that she really believes that all it will take to convince people to follow her path is just sitting them down and talking to them and explaining them. I think that shows one, just a general faith in people's abilities to realize the right thing and to change their ways and do the right thing. But two, it just shows an absolute faith in her own ideology, the things that she subscribes to. She really earnestly believes in these things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's true. It is an endearing character trait. So she finally squares off against Lord of the Lost after dealing with those guys, and she starts to feel doubt about her plan to fight him, and then immediately recognizes that as Rain's power, and then she commits to just enduring it. And as she begins to fight Lord of the Lost with the remnant of like the crane hook from the last chapter, we see how her internal monologue and her thoughts shift.
Mm-hmm.
At first, it's subtle, but it's increasingly more dramatic. So at first, her italicized thoughts are uniformly too hard on herself, too negative. Her memories and thoughts focus on times in the past that she lost and failed. It starts at the beginning with remembering losing to Lord of the Lost at the community center, and it just kind of goes from there.
Yeah, and we've been talking kind of all arc about how there's this frustrated, unsure, testy Victoria. And as she lets Rain's doubt settle in on her, all of this frustration just starts pouring out of her. All the anger she's felt about things not going her way, both in this arc and in the story as a whole. The conversation from the mercenaries moments ago that didn't go her way comes pouring out of her. Like this feeling that my way is the right way. I am me and my teams are the only ones trying to hold everything together. And I just don't understand why these people don't understand that. Like, I love this. This sucked. Every bit of it sucked. It sucked that Lord of Lost had more cachet with the regular people than we did. It sucked that this neighborhood was a nightmare and someone was going to track the damage, blame all parahumans, and it would land in our lap before we even touched Lord of Lost. It sucked that all these people support this guy over us. It doesn't make any sense. It's not fair. It sucks. And this is like all this frustration that I think she's kind of pretty successfully kept, somewhat controlled, is just starting to pour out of her. And like, it kind of like the thing about Rain's doubt power, like, I don't think it brings out anything that wasn't already there, right? It just like it just like forces it to the surface, kind of. So like it's very easy to write this off as just an effect of his power, but this is all inside of Victoria. It's just because of this. It's kind of like Rain's power is just kind of like getting drunk. The emotions just kind of start pouring out of you a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. It's removing whatever would normally be inhibiting this kind of negativity in her, because it's not like she doesn't have negativity from time to time, but she also kind of has her like built-in thought patterns of answering to those things. Like, you have the thought of like, man, I really really messed that up, and then you have kind of the counter thought in your head that's like, well, you it's the first time you ever tried that thing, so you're bound to fail sometimes. Like the mind kind of has a conversation with itself. It seems like the part of her mind that's good at being forward thinking, mission focused is offline, and it's all just this tirade of here's how everything is bad and how it's your fault.
Right.
Specifically how it's your fault, kind of like.
Right.
Like if you were doing better at your job in general, then these things that suck wouldn't be the case.
Well, yeah, and I think that lines up with what we were just talking about, this earnest belief in her that people would follow her and would respect her and would listen to her and her team if she just got the opportunity to explain to them. So, when she realized that frustration, it does immediately kind of turn into this, well, if that's the case, then it's my fault that they're not. If I'm failing to convince them, then I'm failing. And it goes like, we kind of journey backwards in time back to, her original trauma, her original trigger event thing as we move through this chapter.
Right. Yeah. She even explicitly makes that connection at some point.
Yeah.
So, just like, for example, the kinds of internal monologue things that are popping up. No, not good enough. Failing. You're better than this. And it's just this litany of negativity that just seems to be mentally crushing her at first, and just kind of making it harder for her to fight toward the beginning. But eventually, there's a point when the two combatants exchange words, and Victoria seems to be able to leverage Lord Loss's condescension to give her a hearty boost of terrifying anger. And then she attacks him again as he goes after the others, landing a few good hits this time.
Yeah, we're kind of seeing the warrior monk aspect of her personality be tossed aside, right? Like she's this controlled, emotionless, strategic fight has switched to one absolutely fueled by emotion, and that emotional fuel is every single doubt and insecurity and fear and bad memory that she's been harboring inside herself this entire story is now fueling her in this fight. And that is very different from the person she wanted to be all those arcs ago.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to focus on what the text is doing here, and not just what this means for Victoria, but also I think how this affects your reading experience. So I'm just going to read kind of a long bit here. You're better than this, I told myself, with the voice of everyone I disappointed and a dark, joyless feeling in my gut, swimming uphill, drowning, falling, suffocating under disappointment. And then a bit later, you're better than this, I told myself, and it was a condemnation, a feeling that had followed me all my life. You have so much potential, my teachers had said, but if I focused on friends, my teachers would point it out, saying I needed to focus on my schoolwork. If I focused on school, I lost friends, got called stuck up. If I was Glory Girl, I was neglecting my life in the daylight hours, and if I was Victoria, then I was neglecting my dreams. If I separated the two, then I fell to pieces, and if I commingled them, I fucked that up too. That was when I couldn't be sure if my friends were with me because I was a superheroine, and when my mom had to tell me to take my headphones off or correct how I dealt with the public. And it's just like, not only are you kind of appreciating how dark it's getting for her, but you're actually, like me, as I was reading this, was just getting like drawn into this spiral of just black, like hopelessness, kind of. Like I was really getting kind of drawn into her headspace personally.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree, and I think it's because, like, you know, using contradictory like elements, I think, is really effective writing because it's infinitely relatable and like it gets a rhythm to it. And I think that passage you just read kind of has a rhythm to it. It's like focus on school, focus on friends, focus on Victoria, focus on Glory Girl. Like, you know, focus on separating them, focus on pulling them together. All these different choices and all these different methods, and there's a rhythm to that, like a beat, 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 and it kind of gets you into the mindset and the feeling of contradiction there and the impossibility of those choices. And it is so effective. I like it so much. I also like this little bit at the end here. She links back to my mom had to tell me to take my headphones off. This is something that she brought up 2 chapters ago. That yes, I think there was, like we talked about it then, there was this feeling of kind of under the surface resentment there that she didn't really focus on in the moment. But like that comes back around again. Like, so you see, like she links back to that. That's something she's still thinking about, even though she's much further in the battle than she was then. I think that connection, that line drawn to it really helps you understand her headspace here as well.
Yeah, right. Basically, the summary of this passage is you can't do anything right.
Yeah. And that is, I mean, that is her OG trauma, right? That is the feeling that led to her becoming Glory Girl in the first place, was this feeling of you have so much potential. There is so much you can be and can do, and the disappointment that she constantly felt by everyone around her is what pushed her to trigger at first. Mm-hmm. And of course, like any good trigger in the story, the powers don't solve that problem. As we see here, it only exacerbated it. Like this idea, like now suddenly she has more to live up to because she's become this person, and it doesn't solve any of the problems. And I mean, like, after everything she's gone through, all the terrible things that she's gone through since these moments, that is still one of the primary things she feels. You have so much potential. You're better than this. Is still one of the greatest things that's driving her. Is this expectation that she puts on herself because everyone else did, and that's why, like, That's why she gets so frustrated and so unsure, because she's running up against failure, against things are falling apart, and it's got to be my fault. Only I can fix it, and if it's not being fixed, then I am failing, and I'm better than that. I think your mic just cut out. I can't hear you.
Yeah.
You're back.
Okay.
After I stopped talking, I didn't hear anything you said. So
yeah, that's because my call recorder spontaneously stopped recording. So first, I want to verify that it actually got everything, and then once I do that, we can get started again. But
sure,
don't want to take the risk of.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Better to do it now than later.
Yeah.
I'll just entertain our audience. Hello, audience. Yeah, fetus koozie, Wildbow. It's like a little thing. You just put the fetus in, and it keeps it nice and cold, and it doesn't hurt your hand. Just a nice little carrying case for your little fetus. I like that both of y'all said that. I said, hi, audience, and you both responded, hello, podcaster. Oh no, I was missing conversation on the Discord.
Oh no. Come on. No.
No, what? Are we gonna have to start all over?
No, I'm just trying to locate like the last thing I said, which means clicking around a lot. I don't think we lost anything. I think that I noticed as soon as it happened because it threw up a bunch of warnings, and I just didn't say anything else. But does it sound like the right mic now?
Yeah, you're still good.
Okay.
Yeah.
In that case,
let me put another time frame to 29:53, and
no, yeah, I'm gonna have to start a new recording.
Yeah, but I didn't touch mine, so I'll
Roger.
just we should probably count down then.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So where are you gonna jump from? Because I mean your recording might have picked up the thing you said after I finished my thing, but I don't know. Your mic just cut out again. Can't hear you. He's not allowed to ever move his mic. That's the thing.
That's shit.
Okay, I just heard you, but now you're gone again. Sorry for the technical difficulties, everyone. Hey, Stripe Gillette, how's it going? I hear you again.
Yeah, I just unplugged and replugged.
Tap on your mic for me. That's not that one.
Okay, hold on. I'm having to tap very gently. No, still?
Nope.
I guess I'm gonna have to restart.
Hooray.
Skype, that is.
Skype.
Be right back.
All right. You haven't actually hung up yet.
True.
Do. Just hanging out on a Tuesday night. So loud.
Just.
Loud. Hello. That works.
Oh, okay. All right.
All right. So how are we going to do this?
What were we talking about 17 minutes ago when we...
So I just finished my little speech.
So basically right here.
Yeah, I want to read this quote.
Okay. Then you should just go on and read it, because whatever, I don't think I was even going to say anything. So
okay.
All right. Just count me in when you're ready.
Yeah, I'll count you down.
Okay.
All right. We are starting once again here in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, so one of the things I just wanted to touch on before we move on is this one quote as she's kind of spiraling. This one thing she mentioned, she starts like thinking about how no one really understood, and accepted her as herself. And then she says, there had been very few people, actually, that had accepted me as me. 2. One had made me her plaything before discarding me, and then she interrupts herself. She interrupts her own thought process to relay that Rain's power enhanced that stab of guilt that came in the wake of a thought I knew was unfair, glossing over context for the sake of absorbing the brunt of the hurt. And the second one was Dean, and I let him die. So I think this is really revealing for a couple of reasons, right? Because, I mean, this recognition that she was being unfair to Amy a little bit in there, and that she was doing it specifically because lacking the context and being unfair absorbs the brunt of the hurt of remembering that moment. And then the second part of this is that, I mean, once again, we go back to Dean and this thought that I'd let him die, like putting the responsibility for Dean on her shoulders once again. Like, obviously, it is not her fault that Dean died. Like he died fighting a freaking Endbringer. Like, that is not her fault. But she's still putting this on herself. She's putting both of these things on herself. She's just not even willing to admit that she's putting the Amy part of this on herself. It is easier to push that blame onto Amy than it is to accept that she's blaming herself.
It's interesting. I read the reference to the stab of guilt as referring to, or the glossing over of the context as referring to the second was Dean and I let him die. Like, she knows she's not being fair to herself when she says, I let Dean die. But the part of her that's being influenced by Rain's power is still throwing thoughts of that form at her.
Interesting.
And it's still hitting her just as hard. So like, yeah, that was how I interpreted that framing. But overall, I think we share the same kind of interpretation that, like, she's just on this tirade now. She's just kind of just get ahead of steam, and she's just gonna say all of these things sort of designed. It's like the worst things that anyone could say to hurt her.
Yeah.
And even while she's like, some of these things aren't really accurate, but they still hurt. And thus she's going to think them.
Well, and the thing that we have to contextualize with this whole thing is, this is like, remember at the end of the last chapter when she's like, I figured out how your power's supposed to work. And like, she wins this fight. But I do not think this is like a sustainable ongoing strategy of battle, right? Like this seems to generally be a bad idea. This is not sustainable. This is not something you're going to want to do again. And I think by the time we get to the end of this, she's like, nuh-uh, never doing that again.
Yeah, right. Well, and I think honestly, this is a particular battle context where it's unusually helpful, where it's just she's going back to fight the same guy again. Right. And like she knows that the kinds of lessons she has to learn in this fight are going to be ones that are kind of simple and straightforward. Like it's not like, I don't know, a lot of battles in Parahumans, you're changing opponents frequently. the situation's changing constantly.
Yeah.
And thus, like something that lets you learn from a mistake you just made isn't necessarily helpful. But in this context, it really is.
Yeah, especially when those mistakes are simple and like timing based and just like approach based. It's not like redefining an entire battlefield strategy. It's just, I need to move a little bit faster there or hit a little bit quicker there.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. So she continues to criticize herself. She criticizes her timing. She's not quite landing all of her shots. Lord of the Lost gets up again and she attacks again, fighting better this time, anticipating his movements, landing her hits with a sense of timing, being relentless, and she's doing great. And like I'm not sure when exactly I like fully grokked like what the chapter was doing in terms of like, oh, I get it. Like it's making her better at fighting because she's not making the same mistakes again. It was probably around here, honestly. I think I took longer than some people, notably you, who apparently got it at the end of the previous chapter.
It was not like exactly what I was thinking when I said that last week.
But it was close to what you were saying.
It was pretty close.
Yeah.
And that's because I think this works because like it lines up exactly with what Rain is going through. Like this is a microcosm of Rain's arc, right? This power is because he's a guy that's trying to learn from his mistakes, he's using guilt as a method of like trying to improve and be better and learn from the past and get better. But I like that this is also representative of the risks in focusing on that too much, because what we've been doing with Rain a lot lately has been showing that if you dwell too much on that guilt, if you dwell too much on that doubt, it spirals you to a place where you're just destroying yourself and not actually improving. And I think that's like Victoria is like struggling, is like on the edge of a knife, struggling between those two sides. Like on the one hand, she's using this as kind of a battlefield, learn quickly thing to get through this fight. But on the other side, she is spiraling because of all these feelings that are pushing up. And that's, I think, what like in a broader sense is Rain's current struggle, is this feeling that he's, how do you measure the beating yourself up to the wanting to improve and actually using that doubt and using that regret in an effective way to better yourself rather than just sit there and beat yourself up. And that's why I guessed even close to what this was, because it's a beautiful idea that fits so perfectly with who Rain is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, exactly. It's he's nowhere near the point of saying like, all right, I think I'm good now. I think I'm just going to focus on doing good going forward.
No.
And his power is the manifestation of that.
Yeah.
So anyway, she is doing great. She's hitting him. She's hitting her timings. And then she gets spiked like a volleyball down through the floor and into a pit of Cronenberg fetus tongues.
And here we go.
Yep.
Here we go.
So we're treated to an exceedingly graphic description of like a vesicle of fluid bursting against her face, shoving a knobbly umbilicus down her throat, and she realizes she can't afford to just tear the thing out of her because it might break and require surgery to be removed. And in this moment, she thinks to herself that she would rather go out fighting, which, I mean, literally translates to that she would rather die than have to go to the hospital.
Yeah, yeah. And like, I thought this was gross when we were just like watching her watch it happen to Perian. But when you get the nice text that describes what it feels like to go down your throat and like spread itself out and grow, and you can feel all that stuff. Ew.
Yeah.
Ew. Really gross. But yeah, I mean, I think this rather go out fighting thing is a really good illustration of just how far fucking with Rain's power has messed her up at this point. Like, yes, this is Victoria, and that the idea of having to go back to the hospital is terrifying to her, but this is enhanced by that doubt that's coming in, those strong feelings that they're radiating off of Rain.
Right. It's part of me wants to say she's been in worse situations than this, although I can't think of any off the top of my head. But like the fact that she's thinking these extremely dire thoughts is what really kind of puts you in that place of like, oh man, like regardless of how life or death this actually is, our beloved protagonist is um, almost, over the edge. And uh, I don't know, it makes it seem like even if she gets out of this alive and intact, which, spoilers, she does, it's going to have a heavy toll on her.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
So Rain starts to pelt Lord of the Lost with his blades as Lord of the Lost picks up Victoria, who's still kind of struggling against the fetuses. And one of his silver blades hits Victoria's leg, and she reacts by trying to kick Lord of the Lost with that same leg, and he stops her from breaking off her own leg. And then she uses that moment of kind of him changing his grip to tear free of him with the wretch. Um, However, the wretch also takes it upon itself to yank the umbilicus out of her face, which basically works. And then she continues to use small bursts of strength to drag it out, causing excruciating pain and apparent damage to her throat as she does so.
Yeah, and I really want us to kind of zoom in on that moment with the leg, because I think this is a really fantastic show don't tell moment where the text like makes it explicit that it's not just Victoria saying to herself she'd rather die. She's acting upon it too, because that blade hits that leg and she instantly goes to kick out with that leg. There's no moment of hesitation in her head. There's no moment of if this lands, my leg's gonna fall off.
Right.
There's none of that. She just does it. And it's like in this moment she doesn't care anymore. In this moment it's just, I'm gonna go down. I'm going to try to take this guy out with me. And you're right that Lord of Lost like stops that from happening. And that is very, very interesting.
Yeah, I think it's worth noting that there's a couple of moments in this chapter and the next one where somebody loses a fight because they held back from going all out. In this case, it's Lord of Lost. You could argue that the fight could have gone any number of ways, but here he gives her the chance to escape, regroup, and come back at him. Because while he may be a monster on some level, and I don't disagree that he is on some level, he did probably stop her from killing herself here.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's interesting because, like, she's also in this moment where she's willing to die and kill herself, basically. But she also in the real moment, in the moment where she sees it, she chooses to activate the wretch, right? She's in a moment where she might be about to lose the battle. And she activates the wretch, which does exactly what she thought it would, which is rip the fetus out of her mouth in a way that breaks it off, and it becomes a lot more complicated. So even in this moment of I'd rather die, I'd rather go out fighting, she does choose to separate herself and back away a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which I find interesting. But yeah, I think you're absolutely right that Lord of Lost is this pretty complicated character that it is interesting that he chose to do that. And I think like there's so much about this game that we've been talking about throughout this whole book, like the idea of the rules between capes and the cops and robbers game that, has collapsed in some ways but is still being upheld in others. And it's kind of weird how we see that, and we see it again in the next chapter too, when characters are very upset with other people for their perceived breaking of the game. And I just find that interesting that, like, when you have this code that only certain people are abiding by, it's not effective, but it's still being adhered to in certain cases.
Yeah, it's very interesting here because like she actually feels like he's gone too far,
right?
Just by condoning the use of Nursery's power in the field.
Yeah,
like I don't think Victoria thinks that there's any like okay way to use that power. Whereas he still has this line where he said, like, he in this fight he says stuff like I'll go easy on you, and like it's clear, it's actually kind of clear. We've seen him in a couple of fights now.
Yeah,
it's clear that he doesn't go for the kill, even though he's like Endbringer sized basically.
Yeah,
and could just crush people who aren't. I mean, he could probably crush her if he just kind of caught her out of position, and he could definitely crush anyone who isn't super durable. But he doesn't, right?
Yeah.
So like he does have his kind of code, right? It's just very different from hers, and that's cool.
Yeah, and Nursery's power is an interesting one too, because I do agree that, like, on the surface it seems like the most horrible thing ever, but there's no indication that, like, you would die, right? Like, it seems like these, yes, you have these like baby monsters growing inside of you. And to do that to a person is very horrible, but I don't think it's going to kill you. Like it says specifically when it is blocking her airway here, it kind of like readjusts to allow her to breathe. Like it doesn't want the container it's filling to die. So yes, it is awful. It is horrible. I see the point of view of Nursery of Lore Lost. It says this isn't against any kind of unwritten rule because we're not killing anybody. We're just impregnating them.
Yeah, I agree. It's interesting that we don't really understand what kind of the final stage of this xenomorph life cycle is. Like, does a baby eventually emerge from that person? Is it like a master minion of nurseries? If so, does it come out in a way that like severely injures or kills the person?
Yeah.
Or is that not even part of it? Like, is there not a baby? Is it just kind of it incapacitates them? I mean, we don't know, and I think it's actually fine that we don't know because it allows us to imagine the worst.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But I agree. It's an interesting like it's the reasons why this is so horrifying are not so easy necessarily to just kind of put your finger on.
Sure. Yeah, I agree.
So, Victoria then goes, after she finishes the fight, after she finishes pulling the stuff out of her mouth, she thinks straight back into the situation that the messy, bloody lesson was telling me I should stay clear of. Because if I didn't, I knew I wouldn't ever. This was a potential retire from costumes level of badness and bitterness.
And I love that, like, at any moment where the chapter has kind of moved away from how bad Victoria's like emotionally doing, we have moments like this that recenter us. Like she just had a small win in the fight where she got this thing successfully out of her throat. Thank God there are no little pieces that fell in there that would horrify her. Whew, we're doing good. Okay, let's go back to the attack. And then we level set with this idea of, if I don't go in right now, I'm not going to be a cape anymore, which is like, I mean, that is zooming right back to the place where she was at the very beginning of this book, right? Where she just like was so disturbed with the whole thing, was so disturbed with the idea of her powers and all of the stuff that she had removed herself from that life. And now we're back there. We're back to that feeling that like, this is retire from this stuff kind of thing. That's where I am right now. So if anyone reading is underselling the effect that this is having on Victoria in their minds, let this be clear that she is real bad right now.
Yeah, right. It's almost like Victoria's been replaced by another character, but not at all really, because this is all of the same continuum of mentality that we've seen from Victoria. It's just the far extreme of the worst we've ever seen her, and without any real kind of mitigating moments of like pausing and trying to marshal her strengths. It's just her strength right now is that she's going to use this self-loathing, she later calls it, to drive herself forward.
Yeah.
And like it's interesting because like retiring from costumes as like a bullet point to discuss is like a fascinating thing to even enter her head. Because she did have like 2 years of, well, okay, she was a blob for a while, and then she had 2 years of not being able to escape from the cape scene, being on the patrol block, but not quite being able to get back into being a cape. And now she's finally, a full-on cape. She has a lot of victories under her belt. It's been a struggle, and this is so bad that it's making her contemplate walking away from all of this again.
Yeah.
Which it's very like, that's just like you said. I like the word level setting. It's making us aware of that this is as dark as we've seen her. Basically, she didn't think about walking away from capes after the goddess incident, but here we have it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's bad.
Yep. So she returns to the fight just in time to rescue Rain and Chastity from being placented. She gives Rain the Neo hand gesture to keep hitting her with the power. And this time she just beats Lord of the Lost like a complete badass, all while like riding this tide of profound black self-hatred and fear of disappointment. She finally digs her way inside his body, and she gets her hands on his breaker core, forcing him to transform back into a man.
The warrior monk is dead. Long live the angry doubter?
Yeah, we'll workshop it.
You know what my favorite part about this though? After
What?
she's spiraling, she's in this terrible, terrible place, but she finally manages to win. And what is the first thing she does after she reverts him to his normal form? She negs the fuck out of his outfit. It's so wonderful. God, I understand she's in a really bad place. I totally get that, but this moment where it's like, that looks like the type of thing a guy would just walk into a store and say, "Get me everything off the mannequin." It's like, you got him, Victoria. Boom.
Yeah, he's a poser on top of everything else. I knew I was right to hate this guy. And then he kind of puts the cap on it by saying, "Good fight." I punched him in the mouth.
Boom. Got him.
Yeah.
Deserved.
So yeah, again, it's obvious that Victoria's like in the worst place we've ever seen her.
Mm-hmm.
At least in terms of like this level of out of control fury, because not only does she punch an innocent, well, okay, that was the wrong word, punch an unarmed and incapacitated man.
Innocent. Can you imagine if you didn't catch yourself, the comments we would get?
Fine, replace that. A guy who she'd already beaten, punch him in the mouth, and then she has this moment where she's threatening him. And she's threatening him to throw him into the nursery goo. And he's like, "Yeah, you wouldn't do that. You're too noble." And it says, "I pulled off my mask and pulled down my hood. I waited, staring him down. As his eyes studied my face, his expression faltered. Did we get through?" I just love that. So I love that from a writing perspective, because Wildbow doesn't have to say, "My face looked very angry."
Yeah.
He doesn't describe, there's no description of what her face looks like. It's just like, her face is so terrifying that it cracks his composure.
Right. And I love the "did we get through" part of it too, because like here, even at the end of all this doubt spiral and like complete uncertainty in her whole way of life, she is still hopeful that maybe at the end of this thing, I got through to him. I did it. I was successful. And the answer to that question is no, she didn't get through, because he mouths off again, and then Chastity comes in and bitch slaps him to unconsciousness. But like, it's just like, I just love that. I love that moment in her though. Like, even in this moment of like, she's got to feel awful, like worse than she's ever been, like she's still holding on hope to the idea that something we said to him, something in this whole interaction with this guy got through to him, maybe, and she's grasping onto that hope. And of course, it's a Wildbow story, so that's just yanked right away from her. But it's like I said earlier in the story, it's just this commendable, wonderful character trait to have that kind of endears me to her.
Yeah, I agree. So I like this moment toward the end where she's thinking like, well, this was a complete fucking disaster, and then she tells him to turn off his power, and then she's like, could have been worse. And I like it because like that's like, Victoria isn't actually this negative sad sack character. She's this like fierce, aggressive, self-assured person who also has this trauma that drives her from time to time, and those two parts of her war against each other. And it's kind of like we were missing that part of her for this whole interlude, or this whole chapter, where she's just getting so down. And it's good to be reminded, like, that's our Victoria, is the one who's able to look over this scenario and say, at least we got him,
Yeah, right. And the thing that I love about that is if we're continuing on our Rain's doubt thing as getting drunk and releasing inhibitions or releasing emotions that are there, like that's like getting drunk and having these things that you feel that are in there somewhere, but you don't usually allow to come to the surface. In the moment, when you're feeling those things in the moment, they feel 100% real, right? They feel like totally 100%. This is how I feel. This is how I've always felt. Why have I never let myself feel this way? And then you sober up, and or Rain's aura is turned off, and you're just like, oh, that was a little silly to feel that way in retrospect. Right. And I that's kind of what I got from that ending of that story there too. Like, once the aura is turned off, this like realization that, oh, okay, I see now, as restoring myself as I normally am, that was a little ridiculous.
Yeah.
Not that it's not going to have a permanent effect on her going forward. I shouldn't say permanent. It will have a lasting effect on her moving into future chapters. But I do like that comparison, because we do remember this was spurned on by Anora. This is not just her spiraling on her own.
Yeah, I do look forward to seeing what the long-term effect will be, or how it evolves, because I hesitate to say like, oh, it's put her in this horrible headspace, so the consequence is going to be horrible. Like, maybe it'll be horrible in the short term, but also maybe being exposed to all of this negativity almost to a ridiculous degree could sort of like, I don't know, there's something to be said for just like standing back from yourself and seeing how ridiculous you can be in your own thoughts. And then you're like, oh, I don't need to have those thoughts anymore. And then you actually grow from that experience.
I agree. I mean,
so
I think that is kind of what Rain is doing in the long term, right? Is this ability to let yourself feel the worst possible feelings towards yourself allows you hopefully to go, okay, there's that. Now let's move on from that.
Yeah. Right. I'm kind of bored of that now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
let's see what else there is. Yeah. All right. Speaking of spirals into a dark, dark place, let's move on into 11.b.
All right.
Well, actually, first, Victoria checks on her little wrist dealie and sees that the other team is not okay.
Yeah, that's important. Yeah.
Yep. Then we go into 11.b. Our second interlude chapter of this arc. And as expected, it's another member of Lovelost's gang. Though I don't think I saw anyone predict who, because it's Colt, the young woman who had previously lived in Hollow Point, who rejected her parents and who Nailbiter claimed as a personal henchwoman. The chapter is broken up into labeled time intervals starting at 2 hours ago.
Yeah, we'll call this being half right? Because I think we said Lovelost group, but I didn't expect Colt either. But I also didn't expect just about anything that goes down in this chapter. So,
yeah.
Cool. But you're right that this chapter does use that kind of structured anchoring device to make sure we understand where in the grand scheme of things we are, that 2 hours to go, 20 minutes to go now structure. You could probably do it without those little beats, but I think the added clarity does nothing to diminish the chapter and only adds context where you kind of know. And it also gives you that kind of countdown, that feeling of inevitability that comes with knowing that one of the teams is in a bad place going into this chapter and then counting down to it.
Yeah, we're counting down to that discovery that the other team is not okay. So
yeah,
I think that lands. I think the reader understands that.
Sure.
So this is the meeting of Lovelost's team with the mercenaries, the ones who Victoria was just fighting before any of these events went down. We're seeing a bit of the nuts and bolts of how this plan was set in motion, but not only that, I think wrapping around and winding through our perceptions of what's going on with these capes is Colt's perspective, and her perspective is one of this frightened, extremely uncertain, powerless pawn who has no control over what's happening to her, and that is pervading the narration here.
Yeah, and that is Colt. we see how she views each and every one of these people, and they are all more powerful than she is. Like, we don't necessarily see it, but you get the feeling that she is down low and she's looking up at all of these bigger, more powerful people, and they all have things to do. They all have jobs. Even the non-powered mercenaries have things to do, but not Colt. She's just standing there. No job, no purpose, no responsibilities. She's this character that's kind of defined by inaction and indecisiveness and this inability to make choices. And we kind of get that immediately by the fact that she's just standing there.
Mm-hmm. She's in the doghouse too, and I don't know if I ever know why exactly she's in the doghouse, but we can talk about that as we go, I guess. I like this bit where she thinks of Lord of Lost as a giant shell of a man, which is probably the most perfect description of who he is.
It's like literally true.
Yeah. I can't help but think that him being a shell of a man is meant to resonate on the level of character in addition to his power. Like,
I think you're probably right.
He's hollow. There's nothing in there.
Yeah, there's nothing in there but fucking terrible emojis.
Yeah.
There's also these little beats of Nursery just being this sweet old lady who's concerned about the well-being of her monster fetus facehugger baby.
Yeah. Great. So Nailbiter, who's very clearly acting as Love Lost's voice and trusted second in command, orders Sidepiece to kind of stay behind and show the mercenaries around. This gives Colt and Nailbiter a moment alone. The parahuman asks Colt what she's going to do, and then the whole conversation ultimately revolves around this question: what is she going to do? Nailbiter frames it as, are you going to stay behind and help the mercenaries? Are you going to join in the offensive with us? Or are you going to try to run away?
Just give us one answer. Just give us an answer.
Pick one of these. Just tell me the answer. And Colt answers that she doesn't know, which is sort of the worst possible answer. Which kind of makes Nailbiter angry, but in a complicated way.
Yeah.
And it prompts Nailbiter to confide a lot of her story in Colt about how she was a neglected and abused young woman, and an older boy, she calls him, smashed out her teeth when she was young. She latched on to what she perceived as Lustrum's philosophy of female empowerment, but apparently kind of a more violent form of that philosophy. And then she eventually returned to her hometown and tried to get revenge on the guy who hurt her. But it was ineffectual, and her sense of powerlessness and worthlessness culminated in triggering and then using her new power to get revenge on the guy.
Yeah. So, I mean, we have to spend a lot of time on this, I think, because I think this is the most important part of this chapter. This is doing a lot of different things at once. We're learning a little bit about Nailbiter as a character. I think Nailbiter's lust for revenge lines up with some of the things we've talked about with Love Lost in the past. Like we have this specific moment here where Nailbiter says, I was going after this person for revenge. Once I got it, I found I was not sated, and I started reaching out to people like him, people that did similar things. And then as I cleared out those people, the idea of similar spread out further and further to where I was just using this to justify actions against anyone. And that is another beat in this series of conversations we've had about what a love lost after revenge looks like, right? Another thing to seem to reinforce this idea that this is a cycle that will not end. There is no killing my two people and then going off to my own private world to live in peace for the rest of my days. More evidence to reinforce this idea.
Yeah, it seems like the closest thing she got to peace was being put in the birdcage.
Yeah. But this whole speech, this whole story that she's giving Colt has a purpose behind it, because she is telling Colt about how, I was lost. I was unsure of what to do. I attached myself to a certain person and that person's ideology, and I, used that to force my way through life. And then I met that person, and I realized that person was not who I thought they were, that Lustrum was not the person, that the ideology that I thought was attached to Lustrum wasn't it, and she's actually a person that doesn't like violence and doesn't want to go down these certain paths. And it's almost as if to say, Matt, Colt, this life is not for you. Like, just leave. Just go. If you don't leave, bad shit's gonna happen.
Yeah. It's a very interesting dynamic, because she doesn't actually say that.
No.
She doesn't say get out of here, right? And I think the rationale there is she knows that Colt doesn't really have anywhere else to go.
Yeah.
And that she wouldn't necessarily just be like strictly better off if she left the gang. But they're basically saying, like, you're either going to be in on this or you're going to be out. Colt has the impression, though, that they're going to like kill her if she tries to leave, which it's interesting because like my being in her head kind of distorted my perception of the situation to the point where I was like, yeah, it seems like Nailbiter's going to kill her if she tries to leave. And then like reflecting on it, I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure Nailbiter and Love Lost kind of wanted her to choose to leave.
Yeah.
And maybe they could have made that more clear that they weren't going to kill her if she left. But I mean, overall, it's all kind of an understandable level of misunderstanding, since, Colt's not too good at making decisions anyway.
Yeah, I mean, like, basically that's the whole thing, is like, Colt, you've been living in this limbo. Like, you're not with us, but you're not with us, right? And
right.
We're getting to the point now where you need to make a decision. You need to choose. Here's the story. Here's like, and this idea, like, she immediately latches on, like, who am I looking up to? Do you think I'm looking up to? And I love Nailbiter's responses. You're looking down. You're not looking up. And so, like, my interpretation of this, and I might be wrong, but my interpretation of this whole story was not that, like, you've attached yourself to Love Lost, who is this person that, and she's not the person you think she is. My interpretation of this is you've decided that you are a certain type of person. You are looking down at yourself, and you have decided that you are this different type of person, and that is not who you actually are. And you're trying to be this person. You're trying to chase this idea of that person. And do you understand that that's only going to lead to disappointment in you? You're only going to end up hurting yourself. And she just doesn't get it. She just doesn't understand at all. Like this whole moment at the end of the story. Understand? I think so. Understand? No, I don't.
Right.
I don't. Yeah.
Yeah. Because fundamentally, Nailbiter and Love Lost care about Colt on a level at least.
Yeah.
And definitely see some of themselves in Colt, and don't want to see her go down this path, but simultaneously these are two women who did go down this path.
Yeah.
So
that's the wonderful contradiction here. And I think you're right that they can't, like, especially Love Lost with the complicated relationship she has with young people, is this idea of just doing like get out of here. Nobody wants you around here anymore. They can't just leave her, right? Like they can't just like let her go in a way like where they are ditching her and pushing her away. That in Love Lost's mind would, I think, be a failure. Like I failed her. Like I'm repeating past mistakes or whatever. But yeah, they don't. I get the feeling they don't want this. They don't want her to be part of the team, but they also recognize that if they're going to go forward, that's what has to happen. Like it can't be this middle ground anymore. It's not working that way. And they're secretly hoping that she makes the choice to leave, the choice to seek out a new life, hoping that is where she wants to go. And of course it's not, because she doesn't, they're trying to push her towards that in a way that is not 100% clear, because they want her to come to the conclusion by herself. But they're hinting pretty heavily at it.
Yeah. Well, I don't think she's at all in a headspace where she could even make that leap of faith in herself.
Yeah.
She has no faith in herself at this point. She needs to be attached to someone who will fill that gap, that emptiness.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, she says it a little bit later, but it's this like, she's not a person that likes following or taking orders, but she's not a person that likes being alone either. So she's in this limbo, and that's kind of like where she remains even as she's triggering later in the chapter, and this like not ready to commit to one thing, but not fully not committing either.
Right. So she eventually decides that she wants to come along for the attack, which is kind of the most aggressive of the three options.
Yeah.
But it's also the most half-hearted non-decision ever.
Yeah.
So Love Lost shows her face looking crestfallen, and Colt compares the expression to what Scion looked like during his decades of tortured labor.
Oh, it's kind of heartbreaking, right? I think like in this chapter where we show how like terrible and monstrous Love Lost's team can be when they like fight back against all these characters that we really care about. We really like these Undersiders and breakthrough characters, and these guys are doing bad things to them. And they're willing to do it. But we also paint her as this really sad person. Like I love how the text describes this. I love this: caught between anger and sadness, disappointment too light, too loaded a word in Colt's mind now that Nailbiter had talked about it. Crestfallen? Why? I love the usage there, and like that sentence, like disappointment too light, too loaded a word in Colt's mind to ascribe it to her. I love that. Like this she's this person that is this perpetual like sad anger, lostness.
Mm-hmm. And before we move on, I just want to mention that Colt specifically thinks that Love Lost is not powerful enough to destroy the world.
Yeah. Which means that's going to happen now.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So as they're about to go out into combat, or start heading that way, I guess, we're still a couple hours out, Nailbiter offers her a pill to steel her courage. And as Colt takes the pill, there's a huge amount of nonverbal communication between Love Lost and Nailbiter that I think only really makes sense on a reread.
Yeah, it's conversation that makes the already Scion-looking Love Lost look even more fucking depressed. Mm-hmm. Almost as if Love Lost is like, oh, damn it, that's what she chose? Fuck.
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
I guess we're going this way. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what really makes me think that they were trying to push her in a different direction. That's really the choice that they wanted to make, but they recognized that she had to be the one to make it. And this is what she's chosen now. So okay, take this happy pill.
It's interesting because on a level, the choice that they were actually offering her and the choice that she thought she was being offered, I don't think were the same. Like maybe if she had said, I'm going to stay behind with the mercenaries, they would have said like, oh, okay, you can stay with the gang, but we're not going to offer you this pill, which represents something more than a pill.
Yeah.
But she chose the most all in, most violent option. And so they say, well, if you're going to stay with us, then we're going to make you actually one of us.
I thought
then you're locked in.
Yeah, I thought they almost eliminated the middle choice though. Like I think they specifically say Nailbiter, as she reads her indecisiveness and unsurety, she basically eliminates the stay behind option. She says like, we don't trust you enough to leave you alone here. So it's either go or come with us.
I think you're right. That sounds familiar now. So yeah, I guess that makes more sense to me anyway. That they're basically committing to saying if she's going to stay with us, then we're going to try to push her into a place where at least she'll be powerful.
Yeah, I think at the very beginning of the conversation, like if just when Nailbiter sat her down and offered her the first choice between the three, if she had just said, "Okay, I choose staying home at the headquarters and doing chores and making dinner for people and stuff," if she had chosen that right away, if she hadn't had this hesitation, this doubt, this uncertainty, they might have let her do that. But once they see clearly that she is just so indecisive and unwilling to make any kind of choices, I think that's when they were like, okay, we got to eliminate this. It has to be one of these other two now.
Yeah, no, I think you're exactly right. That sounds familiar. Yeah, and I like that forcing the issue.
Mm-hmm.
So we jump ahead to the next part, which is 20 minutes ago. Side piece is sent away again. This time sent away from the battle because they say she's a liability.
Yeah, that's beat 2 of her kind of being sent away, right?
Yeah, exactly.
My favorite part is when she calls Ashley a Q-tip, though.
Yes,
it's wonderful.
That was great. Yeah, it took me a minute to remember why Ashley would be a Q-tip.
Yeah,
but I got it. So Colt is like all jittery from the pill. She glasses the breakdown capes through her binoculars. She sees Damsel. Of course, she calls Ashley Damsel because of course she would.
Yeah.
Lookout, Imp, Floor, Samuel, the blonde, and Roman, the black-haired, heartbroken. You can immediately observe that their party forgot to roll a tank and instead went with all fragile spellcasters and then like 2 rogues.
Yeah, I mean, like we talked about right when they first split up, that Victoria was very explicit in her fact that we can't split these guys up strategically. We have to do it because some of these people are going to kill each other. So, like, I think we're seeing that pay off again and again, in the fact that these fights are kind of mismatched. Like the team composition is kind of not ideal for any of the situations they're in.
Mm-hmm, exactly. Yeah.
So the part I really enjoy about this part of the story, and as we lead into the fight itself, like Colt is looking through her binoculars and immediately sees Samuel and Roman and is like, "Ooh, they're really, really nice to look at." And she's like, I've liked guys before, but I haven't like really, really liked guys before. And I think it's important to note that throughout the rest of this chapter, our point of view character is like riding high on a drug, and so her narration is going to be a little inconsistent and a little all over the place and confused. And I think that's part of what we're seeing here, is like she's about to go into this fight. She's about to be handed a gun and told you can shoot some of them. And her focus is, those are good looking dudes.
Yeah, just to emphasize how surface level my first read through can be. It didn't occur to me at all that there was anything more to this pill than that it was like some kind of amphetamine the first time through. And I was just like, oh yeah, I mean, whatever. It's making her all amped up and getting her blood up and making her aggressive. And yeah, sure, that'll affect her thoughts this way. But it's also interesting how it like seems to like make brights brighter and darks darker and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like it's hitting her on a maybe different psychic level than a simple, street drug would.
Sure.
We're going to talk about this when we get there, but yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, to cement what we're talking about, though, that she's kind of like, she's there, but kind of not there, is like, they've been noticed, so the attack was happening now. Gun tag? She, she had a gun, and like, it's just like the kind of random, like, whatever thought pops into your head musings of someone on something.
Yeah, right. I mean, as we'll see in a little bit, she's the one who shoots somebody in this fight. So she's
Yeah.
clearly like completely kind of deranged in this moment.
Yeah.
So Lovelost gives her orders. The attack squad is given permission to kill, except for Lookout and Floor.
Yeah, we've got some real kind of arbitrary age murder cutoffs in this, like, because I mean, all the Heartbroken are children, right? I mean, some of them are elder teenagers than others, but we've kind of decided that it's okay. It's okay if they're a little bit older children. I mean, that's the whole thing with Colt, right? They said many times throughout the conversation with her before they gave her the pill that you are an adult. You're not a kid. If you were a kid, this would be easier, but you are not a kid. So they've got these arbitrary lines that Lovelost has decided to set. I guess the cutoff is however old her daughter was when she died. I guess
probably. Yeah. I do love that we have in these chapters, we've got Lord of Lost over there, whose code of life is apparently, I can do whatever I'm hired to do. That's my code.
Yep.
And Lovelost is, murdering is fine, except if you're under like 13 or something.
Right.
I'll nail down that age at a future date. And these are such like horseshit codes, but these people sort of like cling to them as like their only way of functioning as human beings.
Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah. So the black-haired Roman seems to lure Kitchen Sink in with a power that induces rage in the other man, while simultaneously making Roman kind of enraged, but also he can fight really well.
Yeah.
So it's a cool little power there.
It's the first time we've seen it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. He makes Kitchen Sink recklessly charge at him and is like, he's forced to fight him, but it seems just better at it than this guy who's just lost his shit.
Yeah. He's got like a fencer's stance.
Yeah.
With his hand. So I'll comment. I made that comment earlier about how people hold back and it costs them. So Damsel is a fucking badass in this fight. And you can't help but think that things would have gone differently if she had been willing to use her power to blast through Nailbiter's fingers and appendages.
Yeah, it would have been much easier for her. She's having to jump around those things instead of just through them.
Right. Like she's definitely a huge asset in this fight. She's the one who basically almost wins it for them.
Yeah.
And then we'll get through that. But she doesn't, because she keeps having to avoid Nailbiter's claws instead of just obliterating them, which I don't see any reason why she couldn't. Like, she can obliterate everything. So
they were right about her. She's gone soft. Mm-hmm. Bring back the old Ashley. Just kidding. So before we move on, there's something I wanted to talk about that we didn't talk about earlier in the chapter, but that really occurred to me. Is these recurring beats throughout the story where Colt is thinking about her family. I mean, we have the direct moments where she's saying, can I go back to them? No, I can't. But there's also just random moments throughout the story where something happens and she links the something that happens back to a member of her family. She has a moment really earlier in the chapter where she's relaying a piece of advice her dad gave her about surrounding yourself with big people. And it kind of makes her uncomfortable that she has that thought. Right here, when she hears Floor kind of lose her shit and scream like a crazy person, it made her think of her sister Reese, and she hadn't thought of Reese in a while. She hadn't gotten along with Reese in ever, but she still missed her. And then by the end of this chapter, there's another instance of, where she offhandedly mentions her mother when she's talking about, I think a scale of 1 to 10 on pain. She talks about her mom was always in the hospital for hip pain. She thought she'd heard a lot about pain scales, heard her mother complain about how arbitrary a 10 was. And it's like, I just love this recurring beat of she's thinking about her parents in these ways that make you feel like they're there just outside her thought, right? That's anything that is tangentially related to something she's heard or something that reminds her of them jumps back into that. And it's almost to say, like, go home, go home. Go to your family. What are you doing? What are you doing here? Go home. You're stupid.
Yeah. Right. I mean, she clearly misses them, but there's that anger.
Yeah.
You know, there's that and that feeling of rejection, I think, where she probably incorrectly feels like they wouldn't take her back.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like she did have like what seemed like a pretty bad home life,
Yeah.
but she's still missing it. You know, it's complicated. So she kind of decides that she's gonna shoot somebody. So she shoots Samuel, which severely pisses off Imp, who gets a hold of her and takes her gun. Damsel then takes out Disjoint, who was the one holding Lookout in place, allowing Lookout to use her flash gun, which forces Hookline to let Floor get closer to Colt. So basically, there's this kind of domino effect set off essentially by Damsel and Imp, and the consequence is that the battle turns in favor of Breakdown. Colt starts to kind of lose it, and her panic culminates as Imp shoves her toward Floor, who is, you know, terrifying.
Yeah, very, very terrifying. The way in which she shoots Samuel is so disturbing, though, Matt. Like, it's so, like, just like everything else we were talking about in her kind of drug-addled state, it's, like, detached and instinctual. Like, I love how she describes it. There was a horrible, jarring kick, and corresponding to that kick, the boy kicked back and flumped to the ground in a horrible, jarring way. Flumped to the ground. I don't even know if that's a word, but I love it.
Yeah. It works perfectly that it wouldn't be a word.
Yeah.
But like the doubling of horrible jarring. I like that.
Yeah. Well, and it's like she compares it to Roman's power, right? Is like there's an opposite and equal reaction to every action, and like just like I just got kicked back by this gun, Samuel got kicked back. It's the same thing, right? It's like so detached to the consequences of what she actually just did. She shot someone, and it doesn't really like occur to her.
Yeah. She's also in this moment of like panic because the battle seems to be turning against them. And, you know, then of course we see Lovelost and Nailbiter are kind of just hanging back.
Yeah, looking confident. We get that specific beat, right, where it says Lovelost and Nailbiter looked so confident, and Colt wasn't sure why. And this is what really sends us down the they knew something was going on with this drug they gave her, right? Because, you know, it's not like the whole team is confident. It's these two people explicitly who were the two people that knew what was going down with Colt specifically. So it seems very intentional to point you down that path.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, definitely. I don't know if I knew what to make of this on the first read through, but on subsequent ones, it seems clear that they were waiting for this to happen.
She also fires her gun again blindly before she triggers, which is stupid. I think at Kenzie, I thought for a second there. It doesn't say specifically who she's aiming at, but she's like looking away because Kenzie's using her flash gun and just kind of firing. And then I think we assume that is Imp that stops her, right? That because she gets stopped by someone, and then she says, "And the next person who was picking me up was Lovelost." And part of me wondered in that moment, like, was it Imp that stopped you from shooting, or was it Lovelost that went like, "Oh God, Jesus, she's just shooting indiscriminately while she can't see. I gotta stop her."
Why did I make this decision? Yeah, I actually think it was Imp, but I like
probably
that.
Was Imp.
I like that imagery of just like, oh no, she's gonna trigger now, and this is gonna be on my head. So she does. She's somewhere else, and it's another not normal trigger event. It's very abstract in a way where, you know, they're always abstract, but it's hard. It's hard to figure out what's happening in this one exactly. There's a vast approaching object. The focus is on the heart of this approaching object, whether it's an entity or a shard or a bunch of shards. I'm not sure, but there's this pit of power at the core of it. Language reminiscent of the other descriptions from the other broken trigger events we've seen in this story. Colt makes the same choice that she made before with Nailbiter. She doesn't want to leave, but she doesn't want to go all in either. So she refuses to take the greater share of the power, but she leaves with something of a vestige of it, enough that when she emerges, she has a strong power.
Yeah, so let's talk about this for a bit. I mean, the first thing we have to talk about is this idea that we could have just witnessed what would have been a broken trigger under any other circumstances, but in this specific circumstance with this specific person with this specific personality, they're the only one that in their indecision is capable of resisting this well of power that we've been talking about. So they step back from it. So that's interesting, right? Like this is we're kind of getting maybe a hint into what the broken triggers are. It's like the shards are saying, "Come, take all of this," and most people don't have the capacity to do that, and it kind of spirals and chains into this terrible broken trigger event.
Right. Yeah. There's something to do with the lack of built-in limitation that has been put in on the shards,
right?
By Scion and Eden. In this case, I mean, I don't know. You can theory craft about it. I think it's probably something along those general lines, though.
Yeah, but so what do we think is happening here? And by here, I mean with the shards, with the entities. Like, what is, because this is the third or fourth time in this book we've referenced this great well that people get a glimpse of. This is, the third time I think that we've referenced this idea of standing on the edge, and you just have to take a step to fall in. What do we think? What is going on with these shards? Do we have any kind of hint at this point in the story where we think this is going? What's happening here?
Well, I don't know if I have any new insight based on this chapter. I mean, I think the fandom at large is kind of this idea that, maybe the shards, the shards themselves were originally organisms.
Yeah.
And they kind of, over many generations and a bit of kind of intentional engineering on their own part, they formed together into kind of these colony organisms. And the thing is, like, that describes animal life too. I mean, we used to be, every one of our cells used to be an organism of its own. But I think there's a distinction here, which is that some of these shards may actually be like millions of years old, like individually, and have their own kind of. Each of these shards has its own mind, if you will. Like they're weird alien minds, but they may be even more alien than Scion's was. But there's some sense in which it's in the shards' individual interest to perpetuate the cycle, because they will individually die if the cycle is not continued. So, or maybe not the cycle per se, but some continuation of their existence. Maybe they're trying to lure humanity into saying, like, okay, well, if we can't be responsible for our own perpetuation, then maybe you guys will take care of us.
Yeah.
I'm this all sounds well and good to my like science fiction fantasy brain, but I'm sure that there's like a really elegant answer that ties this into the trauma and recovery theme.
Yeah, I mean, I've read about, this idea that they are looking for like a replacement entity, right? That like the shards are looking for something to pour all their power into to steer the ship of all the shards, like to something to become that control mechanism.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just kind of offering it to different people, and people can't take it. Like that's by design. Like they were locked off and depowered before they were handed out to people, because people could not survive this stuff. So they're kind of searching for maybe the person or the people that could. And that does, I find that interesting. But you're right. Like, I haven't found a way to like clearly link that to what I think the themes of the story are. And as we saw in Worm, the plan of the entities and what was going on with them very much linked to the themes that the story was discussing. So there is probably a very poetic linkage here that we're just not seeing yet.
Well, I mean, the best I can get is Scion being obliterated was a trauma. A trauma has been incurred upon the shards, which are, if you think about it, an alien race, in a certain sense. And so they're all trying to recover from this trauma too.
Yeah, and their version, I like that, because their version of recovery, if this create new entity theory is correct, their version of recovery is to just try to go back to the way things were before, right? And we've been talking about how that doesn't work, and that push and pull between let's get everything back to the way it was before versus let's grow and change and new and become something new. And I like how the shards could be in their own version of this, where they're trying to either decide whether to try to recreate existence as it was prior to the death of the entities versus trying to change and grow and develop into some new kind of thing. So that could work. That could work.
Yeah.
I like that.
I like it. Cool. Good. So just as we get the trigger, we get the sense that it would have been a broken trigger, and then the time is now, probably, perhaps even when Victoria's looking in on how her team is doing right now.
Yeah.
And we see that Love Lost team has just won, like, immediately, perhaps even like almost instantly winning when Colt used her new power, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And Colt's feelings are tumultuous. Love Lost doesn't seem happy that this has happened, although we can be almost certain it was orchestrated.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I think that's where we leave it too, is that whatever this drug was, it seemed to force a trigger situation, which is new, right? That's not something that has existed in the past, has it?
No, it's only been hinted in Valkyrie's interlude, where she references like a group of warlords having been one of the groups that figured out how to trigger powers.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, well, I mean, we kind of knew we were going to see this, right, at some point.
Yeah.
Assuming that's what this is.
Yeah, it certainly seems like it. Yeah, and I love that like you see Love Lost as this, and that's like Love Lost is this. I kind of want to hate her in time, like, because like that's the central, like, she's sitting here like, oh, I'm so bummed it had to be this way, and it's like, no, you did it though, like you did that. You're kind of a freaking hypocrite, and it's just like oh, I'm so bummed, like, yeah, like, it's just, come on, this team sucks. Like, I mean, they're all cool, I love them as characters, but they're bad people, and I want our good guys to make them go away.
Yeah, I mean, she's like a rage monster. She's none of her decisions are from a place of what is best for everyone, like ever. It's just revenge and rage and violence. And
so
yeah,
that's question, speculation time a little bit. Are we on the path towards a Love Lost being killed by the end of this arc or the one after it? Is that where you think the story's going? Because I think we could be heading that way. I think it would be very interesting to see, Rain killed Snag and went through this growth experience, and he finds himself in another situation where he might have to kill another member of his cluster, and what is that going to do to him when it happens? That seems like where we could be heading with this.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking if she is killed, it's more likely to be Cradle who does it.
That's fair. That's fair.
And because basically, I foresee a conflict between her and Cradle, because their only reason to work together is out of hate for Rain. They actually have like nothing in common, and he seems pretty horrible. Like, it seems like we're trying to cast him as like a next level of bad. And that he would even be willing to go after her for her share of power. So I either think he's going to come after her or she's going to come after him and die. But I actually do think she's going to die.
Yeah, and that seems to be the direction we're heading, right? I think the more we learn about her, the more we see both the good and bad parts of her, and kind of we're painting this picture of this person that is beyond redemption, almost, that this person that we're making very clear, like, even if she kills Rain, she's not going to be done. This is not going to end. This is eternal. This is she's caught in a loop, and that seems to be heading towards death. But you never know. You never know.
Yeah, maybe I'm making too much of a couple of word choices in this chapter too, but like, I wonder if there could be an element where Colt is a bit of a wild card in who knows what I mean by that exactly, but like, she didn't just get a power, she got what seems like a brokenly strong power.
Yeah, it seems almost like an I win power.
Yeah, and that could play into things in a surprising way in terms of changing the way the game board looks right now, in some sense.
Yeah, and it certainly would be poetic, right? That she, Love Lost, gives this power to this girl. Yeah.
I like it.
Would show that she's not learning any of her lessons. Love Lost, Jesus.
Nope, not at all. So we're informed that the injured Breakthrough Siders will be given medical attention if the others behave, and then the villains proceed to the next fight, presumably.
Oh, good. Thank you very much for your giving us medical attention. Very nice.
Yeah, I mean,
Assholes.
so we're assuming that Samuel is like not already dead from his apparently so bad that he just like flopped over and didn't get up again, gunshot wound.
Yeah, but I mean, Colt's probably a bad aim. Like, it probably just hit his shoulder or something.
Yeah, well, I mean, she wasn't even aiming, so.
True.
In movies, whenever the person isn't aiming, that's when they get a headshot on the first time.
And you know, the great part about movies is once you take the bullet out of that body,
they're fine.
They're fine. Doesn't matter doesn't matter the things in the body that have been ripped up as it travels through it. Once it's out of there, you're good, man.
Yeah.
Good.
Doesn't matter that the bullet dropped from supersonic to stationary within a few inches of your flesh. All right. Let's move on from the chapters into the community spotlight. And the question last week was choose an emotional manipulation power in parahumans and discuss what the power says about the character who wields it. So first, we start with EXE JPEG Windows Movie Viewer file. Fear and Awe aura from Victoria. It's hinted at in Worm and confirmed in Ward that Victoria is a genuinely nice and altruistic person to people, that she felt were on her side or deserved protection, even going out of her way to protect people when it would have been easier just to stand aside, such as the incident Madison talked about in Glowworm. We can also see this in how Vicky really was Amy's best friend and the only member of the Dallin family that really connected with her. But when confronting people that she doesn't like or views as an enemy, Victoria can be surprisingly cruel and brutal, inspiring fear in the people she manages to win against, such as using torture as an interrogation method, her previously domineering and uncompromising attitude during combat, and general disregard for the pain she inflicted. This also fits in with her characterization as the cop character and reflects how a lot of people feel about them in real life. Friends and families of cops do often hold them in reverence and view them in awe, and have actual positive experiences that reinforce this view, while most anyone that comes into conflict with the police just feels dread and fear when seeing them. I like that last note, because that feels absolutely authentic.
Yeah, I like this a lot. The thing that I like most about this is I think this is entirely accurate, and I think that it slots perfectly into why her aura worked the way it did. But it's different now, and so if you take this metaphor for how she feels about the people around her and how her aura is reflected and how she feels about the people around her and how the people around her feel about her, and you push it into present day Victoria where her aura seems to be mostly just the fear part, that does say something about our protagonist, doesn't it?
Yeah. I'm still waiting for the other shoe to drop with regards to what's going on there. But yeah, it absolutely indicates that something in her character has changed, because I mean the powers are like a metaphorical window into the character, and so when a power changes, it means the character's changed.
I mean, on the simplest level, I mean it could definitely show her loss of reverence and respect for the people that are most important to her, right? Like if she cares deeply about these people and wants to be impressive to them, and what Amy did to her has ripped that away, and it is not as much of a concern to her anymore. Ergo, awe is gone.
Or potentially even her respect for herself.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like that's cool.
All right, next up we have Calerno, or Calinero. I think I always say that wrong. Sorry, Calinero. That's embarrassing. Who picked Cherish. And they say, when compared to the rest of the Heartbroken, Cherish appears to have a much more powerful and more flexible power. But that power comes with some serious limitations, and those limitations are represented in Cherish's character herself. Cherish's power is all about manipulation, and Cherish makes a mistake of thinking it is the same thing as control. At every step, she overestimates her own abilities and bites off more than she can chew. She uses a bomb around the neck to keep herself safe, which is a great metaphor for the loaded gun she's playing with by being involved with the Nine and attempting to mind control them. That attempted mind control backfires on her as well. She thinks she knows how to manipulate the Nine, but they're playing along with her all along. Even in her most benign and seemingly useful power, her emotion sensing fails her when it counts. She gets accurate information on Skitter. She gets inaccurate information on Skitter. If she had done better, the 9 might have left with a truly terrifying addition to their team, and Cherish might have ended up in a better spot. So I like this idea that like she's got this far range emotion sensing power, and she's able to inflict different emotions on people, which is different from the rest of the Heartbroken. You know, each of them so far seem like focused on a certain emotion or limited to a certain thing. So hers is much far ranging, but it's hampered by her like inability to understand the effective use of it, and that leads her into trouble after trouble. Like, I love this basic idea that she's using it to try to control people and being controlled all the time.
Yeah, right. I think that hers is the only one that actually sounds like it's just strictly better than what Heartbreakers was.
Yeah.
But you know, it always seems like the strongest capes have like the most glaring personality flaws that lead to their downfall. Like,
yeah.
I mean, Lung is kind of the famous example of just like, why does he always get into these fights that he ends up losing? It seems like he should never lose. It's like, yeah, why does he? Exactly.
That's the whole thing.
Right. Next, Sarah Penguin discusses Candy. And they say, unlike most other emotional manipulators who use terror, anger, or other negative emotions, she is a villain who used happiness while still being nightmarish. Her power seems to be the embodiment of an abused child trying to please her abuser, so that the abuse is not as bad as it could be, with the making people hate what they love being that the child can never truly succeed, and the attempts most likely backfire and make it worse.
I love that. I love that idea of her power represent like I am trying so hard to please you, and in my efforts to please you, I'm just making you hate that thing. Mm-hmm. It does very much feel like a reaction to an abused child. I just want to make you happy, Dad. I just want to make you happy. Here, like, I'm gonna fill you with your wildest dreams, and all it does is taint the person's love of that thing, which would be exactly what it feels like when your parents are abusive assholes. I love that.
Yeah, no, it's perfect.
All right, up next we have Roundest Frog, who lists Monoceros. They say that her emotional power lines up perfectly with a lot of things common in child predators. It works best on targets who are alone, since it can only affect one, and those who are gullible enough to let the emotions truly affect them, like kids. It feeds her information about them both through their eyes and mind, which lets her better manipulate them. Her entire power is about putting herself in a position of power over someone vulnerable. However, it has some pretty blatant flaws. First, the moment she's dealing with more than one person, she's at a serious disadvantage. Second, if her target gets wise to what she's doing, she's effectively powerless against them. Just like with actual child predators, the moment others get involved or the moment their victims break free of their control, she's finished. I like that a lot too.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I'd almost embarrassed that none of that occurred to me before.
Yeah, I never really thought about it in that kind of way, and the second I read this, I was like, yeah, of course, that makes perfect sense. I love the idea of she wants to get them alone because it works better when it's just the two of them, which is terrifyingly accurate to what child predators do.
Right, and also the sense that like if there's anyone else present casting doubt on kind of the illusion that the predator is creating, it breaks the illusion essentially.
Yeah.
Or at least it's not as effective. Anti-Chris discusses Love Lost and says, despite the fact that she loved her daughter and doubtlessly had good times with her, she went from being an absent and neglectful mother to one who verbally abused her daughter, just as she shouted at her husband in the very beginning of her interlude. She wasn't able to get enough of a handle on her anger to be better for her daughter. She did love and does regret mistreating. She failed to rise above her anger before she triggered, and after the trigger, with it replaying regularly and her shard pushing her, she makes no attempt to do so. Instead, she eagerly does what her power enables and encourages her to do. She drags other people down to her level. She targets people and fills them so full of rage that they lash out at the people around them, the people they trust and value and even love. No matter how much they know they will regret it later, they cannot truly control themselves, and they attack their allies just like she did. Yeah, I mean, I love this, and it goes very much in line with what we were saying the other day about Rain's power being like he is full of doubt and regret and self-loathing, and so he projects that onto other people. She is full of rage and an inability to control herself from lashing out at people, and that's exactly what she projects on the people. And I think you could say the same thing about Snag's power, and we don't understand Cradle's yet, but I'll be interested to see what that is.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I love that idea around. Like, Antichrist takes a pretty savage swing at Love Lost here. I don't think they're very forgiving of any of the choices Love Lost makes, and I kind of love it because they're like, you were a cop. Like, Antichrist says, you were a cop, you got a power, you could have gone right, like there was a path for you right to the heroes, and that path to the heroes might have been the most effective and moral way to punish the people who did this to you. You join the heroes and strike out against the fallen, right? I mean, that seems like a very obvious thing to do, but as Antichrist says, she's not necessarily interested in that. She's interested in just feeding that rage and doing it in any way possible. She's hypocritical. She draws certain lines and not others. I love this painting of a character who's just completely ruled by that rage to the point of any kind of logical thought process isn't there anymore.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Synth says Roman. My theory is that he's the type of person who, during an argument, has a hard time keeping objective. He's probably the type of person who, when he gets angry during an argument, expects the other party to interject as much emotion into it. From there, it's fairly easy to guess how he got his power. At one point, he got into an argument, maybe this is something that happened a lot, in which the other person had either no real interest, wouldn't invest themselves emotionally, or, and considering his family, this is a real possibility, was unable or prevented from caring about the argument. I like this point of view a lot because it's like saying, like, I'm gonna yell at you until you get pissed off at me enough to engage me in this fight I want, right? So it's like the other person is not really engaged with you, but you're gonna force the issue. It's like kind of arguing on the internet where, like, I'm gonna set out to piss you off so you come to me, and now we get to have our argument that I wanted to have.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it can be very enraging when you're upset in a way that feels authentic, and the other person is being condescending to the point of not even acknowledging that there's anything to be upset about, and sometimes you just want to see them be upset, right?
Yeah.
And that's his power.
Yeah, and the way you win is by making them so mad that they stop behaving in any kind of rational way.
Yeah, right. Which is not really what you wanted.
No.
Which is why it's a power.
Yep.
Finally, we have Macy 1 saying Taylor. Wait, what? So they say not. So yeah, this is not really in the spirit of the question, but we'll let them do this as they're running the cool Pact Analysis show, which you should check out, and you should also read Pact because it's great. It discusses how Taylor would offload her emotions onto her bugs, which represents how she would compartmentalize and avoid negative thoughts and emotions. This all culminates, according to Macy, in the end of the book when, confronted by Contessa without her bugs or any other outlets to flee from her emotions, she confesses to Contessa and says she would have done things very differently. And they say, I also think it contrasts fantastically with Victoria. Victoria outputs emotions onto other people, emotions which potentially reflect her own state of mind if some theories are to be believed, whereas Taylor offloads her own feelings onto bugs. Victoria is constantly trying to connect with people and reach out. Taylor went her own way and wanted things done her way.
Yeah.
I like that.
I like this too. Not really the question we were asking, but we'll let it slide.
Well,
and quite a few of you guys said, I just want to talk about this person. It's not really an emotional power, but guys.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting to see how how almost everything impinges on emotionality at some level,
right,
because that's like what makes an interesting character.
Sure. Yeah.
But yeah, it's cool. Scott, did you want to take this notable? There was a notable thread on the subreddit that was not under the We've Got Ward thread.
Yeah, so we sometimes highlight these things, and I don't want to do this too often because I don't want our show to just turn into reading other people's threads. But there was something I saw today. I should have pulled who said it before I said I was going to do this, but they were talking about the thread title is Ward, quote, helped in real life with my family yet again, a thank you to Wildbow. And it's just this person talking about how they've taken the things that they've read about and seen in this book, and it has helped them through difficult times in their real life. And I just wanted to point this out because I love books and I love reading and I love the power that storytelling can have. And I love seeing, real life consequences to people reading these stories, and that it is helping them. It is changing their lives for the better. And that is what stories can do. That is the power stories have. And I encourage you guys, I don't want to go through and read it all. It was a very personal story that I don't want to just jump on the bandwagon for, so I'm not going to really get into the details of it. But I just encourage you to drop into the subreddit and take a look at the story, because it is really beautiful and really impactful, and let us never forget that this is what stories can do. They're some of the most powerful things on the planet, and I love them so much.
Yeah, I agree 100%. So the discussion question for this next week will be: doubt and regret are pervasive themes in both Worm and Ward. Pick a character and discuss how doubt or regret played into their story.
And don't say, okay, I want to talk about this character, but I don't really have anything to say about doubt and regret. Don't do that. Talk about doubt and regret. Answer the question, Misi.
And that's all we got for you this week on We've Got Ward. You guys are all part of this show, so feel free to provide us with advice, questions, or thoughts on this week's reading.
You can reach out to us via email at gotwormpod@gmail.com or over on our Twitter account @gotwormpod. My personal Twitter is @ScottDaily85, and Matt's is @IndecisiveMoreDinamail.
That's right. If you're not already subscribed to We've Got Ward, we strongly recommend you do so and never miss an episode. You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, Google Play, and pretty much anywhere else in the world you can listen to podcasts.
And as always, you can find this and all the other podcasts we do over at doofmedia.com. We've got another great, exciting week. We've moved Vow to View to a new time. It comes out on Tuesdays now. We've got Doofcast this Friday. I think we're covering a webcomic, right? It's another one of our patron-produced episodes. We're covering the webcomic Unsounded. That'll be out this Friday. We're getting close to wrapping up the first official Doof Play StarCraft tournament, Matt. We're on to the finals. We have the final match. I think we're going to try to do that sometime this weekend, I believe. All that stuff can be found if you head on over to doofmedia.com and follow us on our Twitter, and you can see when we're doing all that stuff. There's a lot of really exciting things coming on. Our book club is coming up again next week. There's always new content to see over there, so go check it out.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you like any of our shows and you want to support them, consider donating to our Patreon account, patreon.com/doofmedia. You can donate $1 a month or whatever else you can afford. Supporting us on Patreon gives you tons of great bonuses, like voting in the quarterly fan art and the yearly costume contest, Q&A sessions with me and Scott, access to live streams of our recording sessions like this very one, and our excellent and lively Discord chat. No new Patreon patrons this week, but I noticed that someone named Patricia H has been donating to us via PayPal regularly for 2 or 3 months, actually. So we wanted to, of course, give the shout out. It's unfortunately there's no real way to hook that into the way Patreon does things.
Yeah.
But of course, we still certainly appreciate the donations, even if it's through PayPal. And thank you for that.
And Patricia, if you're listening to this, and you would like access to our Discord, since you can't go through Patreon, send us an email and we can get you a link to get you in there, because you are donating to us. That is the reward for any level on Patreon. So I feel like it's only fair that you get it too. So send us an email at gotwormpod@gmail.com and we will send you a link.
Yeah, and that goes for anybody who, for whatever reason, can't or doesn't want to use Patreon.
Yeah.
And of course, while you're indecisive over the question of Patreon or PayPal, make sure you go over to Wildbow's Patreon, patreon.com/Wildbow, and donate to him as well. This is his world, and we're just playing it. And speaking of his worlds, I've been reading Pact, y'all, and it's real fucking good. Kind of mad at all of you for not telling me how good.
Matt, they've been telling us to read Pact literally since we started. I think episode 2 of this podcast was, when you finish Worm, which book are you going to do next?
Well, be that as it may, it's real good, everybody, and the Deep Impact podcast is real good too. So
yeah,
check that out.
I haven't listened yet because I have not read it yet, but I am meaning to get to that. I've just got a to be read list a mile long. So, but I hope to get to it soon.
Don't worry, it's not that long.
Yes, it is. It's just not as long as Worm. It's still long.
Yeah, it's super long.
And of course, guys, if you cannot afford to donate right now, that is absolutely okay. You can instead always help us out by sharing this podcast with literally everyone you know, sharing our website with everyone you know. It really does make a difference. As you'll see in just a little bit because we have a new review from someone named Samwich who gives us 5 stars and says, "I love this. Backstory. I randomly discovered Worm in a YouTube comment and decided to give it a try. I fell in love and read the whole thing in a little under a month. Between each of my college classes, I devoured chapter after chapter. Sadly, I had no one to talk to about it. I figured YouTube got me into this. YouTube will help me out again. So I found this podcast, and it is absolutely amazing. Scott reminds me that metaphors are a thing, and there's always more than just a surface layer. But one part that I feel often gets overlooked is how great Matt is at summarizing key information. I tried talking to a friend into the story of Worm and couldn't do it. Trying to cover all the character beats and intense and intricate battles was too difficult, but Matt has got this down to a science. They are both really funny. Even the out-of-video descriptions are funny, especially Gleaming Part 2. Finally a chance for Byron, Captain of Gondor, to show his quality." I did love when I wrote that joke. I now listen to their podcast whenever I cook. Now that I've caught up with it, I just listen to old episodes waiting for a new one. These guys are awesome. Anyway, I promised myself I'd write a review and become a patron as soon as I caught up, so I'm going to go do that now. This is the only podcast where I've re-listened to any episodes. It's great. Wow, Samwich, that was awesome. Thank you so much. I love just about everything you said here. I love that you put some attention on Matt, who doesn't get enough credit for the amazing summary work he's doing. I still say that the only reason why I was as successful with some of my my speculations back in Worm is because Matt was very good at very subtly pointing me towards that information without making it very obvious. I'm glad you think we're funny. I think the most important thing here, though, Matt, is I found out about Worm in a YouTube comment. I think this is the perfect example for why, if you love something, share it with people. Share it everywhere you can because it works. People find things in ways that you never would expect. I would never expect people to find Worm in a YouTube comment, but this is evidence that it happens.
No, I would never expect anything good to come from any YouTube comment ever. Yeah, no, I've got that little squiggly smile on my face indicating bashful pleasure. So yeah, thanks. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you so much, Samwich. And what are you cooking right now? Can I have some? You got some chicken?
Chicken? I'm hungry. All right, that's all for this week, and we'll be back next week with some more Arc 11 Blinding.
I saw it was an interlude, and I'm very excited to find out who it is.
Yeah.
Is it going to be my long-awaited disjoint interlude?
No comment.
Clever. Bye-bye. My nose. I left my tissues not in this room. It was devastating.
Oh, that's horrifying. That's the worst. Having had that specific thing, I'm like, oh, well, as long as you have tissues.
Yeah, as long as you have tissues, your life is fine. That's awesome, Sarah. I really need to get around to doing that as well. I'm reading The Wise Man's Fear right now, and I'm really in love with it. And then I have to read Book Club book after that, and then I think I'm going to actually spend some time on Pack Attack. Pact.
This is number 4. Yeah.
Don't forget you have 2.
Right. I was trying to sort that out for you.
I failed to do the thing where I noted what times we moved to new chapters, and now I'm angry at myself. Oh well. That was a good one. I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Wow, Quantum Zero. That's a... Why does it keep moving this? Hey, computer, I don't need the second matte image. Oh, what did it do? Oh no.
Oh no.
It just minimized every single one of my windows.
Did you hit Windows D?
I didn't hit any buttons. I was just aggressively shaking things.
Oh, that was good. That was good.
Why is your face gone?
I don't know. I didn't do it.
I don't understand.
Now to go back and read all of the comments.
Okay.
Because I think I've been doing better at this podcast since I entirely hid the comments from myself while I was doing the podcast, because otherwise I look at them and then I'm not listening to you, or I'm distracted from what I'm saying. It's just kind of obviously a bad idea, and I don't know why it took me that long to figure it out.
Yeah, probably. I don't say Skype. Go to call. Let me see his face again.
We're not there yet.
I hate it. I hate it so much. I'm in the call. Go to the call. Well, I don't understand how to do this.
Fun fact. I don't know what I was going to say. I was just trying to say fun fact.
Good job. Here, I'll just move this here, and you'll just see a mini version of Matt. I don't know how to go back. Like when this happened before, there was a button that was just like, go to Matt, go to call.
Oh. So the concept being that Colt was part of the Kinsey napping incident. Gotcha. All right. Yeah. It seems like that happened like 8 years ago, but I guess in story time that was pretty recent.
It's very recent. It was like last arc. Was it? I don't remember.
No, I don't think so. Watch me be completely wrong about that. No, it's got to be more than that because it was before Goddess. Goddess was like a whole arc.
Was it before Goddess? I guess it was.
Must have been.
Oh my god. I'm so mad about this. Skype. It's like it doesn't think I'm in a call with you. That's like it's like what if I boop that?
But okay. You didn't change anything, really.
No, I was just like taking this thing and like shaking it around, and it did it again. I hate everything.
Me too. Me too. Why is everything so bad all the time, and it's all our fault?
Rain, turn your power off. Oh, there! I found it. I found you.
Yay!
I did it. I'm so happy.
I'm gonna start crafting stars now. So apparently, this piece of shit ranking system put me way lower since they started the new season. So I'm pretty mad about that.
I'm sorry. Guess what?
Go ahead.
I was just gonna talk about Resident Evil's coming out on Thursday, cool. And I'm pretty excited about it. Resident Evil 2.
Are we on 2 again? Did we wrap around the integers?
No, man, it's a remake. You gotta get in time with the game stuff. We just remake them. Do it.
Guess that's all right.
Yeah, I think you're right, Sarah. That the Heartbroken's age is not actually what's important. It's just that they're two girls. Because I think someone else said it in the comments. Isn't Roman fairly young? I don't actually know the age of any of these guys.
Wildbow listed a bunch of their ages at one point, and
where? I didn't see that.
I think it was in Ward spoilers, okay, and it was like today.
Okay.
Well, the thing is, it was like today, so I didn't really have time to process it in my brain, but
I can't read that right now.
So. Seems relevant. Yeah. Yep.
Roman is 12. He's 12. So yeah, this no kids thing is bullshit. Love Lost.
Yeah.
Bullshit. It's definitely just don't kill the little girls because that makes me feel better about myself. Cool, Love Lost. You're great. You're gonna die. Hope you die. Hypocrite. I'm gonna regret that because she's gonna die in like the most tragic way ever.
That's how it always is.
She's gonna be like, she's gonna go to the area and she's gonna be like, Rain, you were right.
Right.
I get to see my daughter now. And then the realization sets in. She's not going to her daughter. She's going to the well. Or something. I really liked your answer a lot. I hope we did a good job because sometimes it's really hard to encapsulate those down to an easily readable thing. And Matt is much better at it than I. You can always tell who pulled the discussion questions based on how much I make Matt read because he's much better at distilling them down to like 2 sentences. Where I'm just like, oh, copy paste 4 paragraphs. That's good, right?
I actually, yeah, I mean, I've said this before, but I really prefer doing it at the end, like a lot.
I mean, the general consensus like everywhere is that it just works so much better there. I'm kind of mad it took other people recommending it for us to realize it, because it's
Yeah,
just it just works so much better.
right. Agree.
Stupid Love Lost. I'm so mad at her. I'm mad at Colt. Go home. It's too late now. Now you're gonna kill everyone with your superpower.
Yep. It's gonna be bad. It's all gonna be real bad now.
I was kind of in my head just like speculating on what I think her power could be, and to go along with her indecisiveness, I love that it just makes people like unable to decide what to do, so they just don't do anything.
Yeah, that's good. It's simple, but you can see how something like that applied to a number of people would be
Yeah.
real strong.
We didn't talk about the fact that like one of the things that was interesting was the way the ground was described, both immediately during the trigger and then after the trigger.
Yeah, yeah, true.
It's like to make specific mention of the ground, and how it changes to real ground, and the differences there. I
Yeah,
wonder if it's anything to do with that.
yeah, that's pretty cool.
Love Lost and Cradle are rabid. The only thing to do is to put them down. Yeah. Yeah. I can't wait to read the next. So, I mean, like, I said this before, but I'll go ahead and say it again. The frustrating part I'm dealing with right now is that my work internet connection, like, really, really doesn't like Twitter, for obvious reasons, because there's no work reason to be on Twitter ever. So I kind of understand. I think they've, like, not entirely firewalled it, but they've blocked certain ports or something that makes it not work as well. The point is that like my Twitter just doesn't work very well at work. So whenever I try to do the live tweets while I'm at work, it usually ends up me having to send the same tweet like 6 times, because the 5 previous times it says something went wrong, please resend your tweet, and it just frustrates me to the point where I'm just like, I just don't want to do this anymore. So that's why I've been doing both of the episodes at once. But I don't like doing that as much. I don't like having to do them both on Sunday, because normally what happens is I'll do the one on Thursday or Friday, and then I'll reread it over the weekend and kind of get a jump start on my studying for it. And I just feel like I don't get as much time to do my own prep work. So I'm probably gonna find a way to just figure out what I need to do there, because I don't like it as much. Plus, my Sundays are very crowded, and having to fit in 2 chapters is pretty tough. Matt, do you have a solution for me there?
No, I mean, I actually am kind of amazed that you're able to do the live reads at all. I really enjoy that you do them. But like, I think everyone was disappointed in me for not doing live reads for Pact, and I'm just like, I am aware of how much work that would be.
It's tough.
And I say to you, good day, sir.
It's an hour to an hour and a half per chapter.
Yeah. And I mean, it takes me an hour to read it, and I'm not live tweeting it, so
Yeah.
doesn't surprise me.
That's true too. That when I do put them both on Sunday, it means I am basically never in the Ward Spoilers channel, like, ever, because
Yeah.
I'll hop in there Sunday afternoon and then I'll hop out again Tuesday morning, and that's basically it. And I don't like not being able to go in there. I had things I wanted to say today, and I ended up saying them in random channels I probably shouldn't have said them in, because I was just like, there's nowhere to put this. There's nowhere to put this thought, and my episode isn't for 4 hours, so I need to put it somewhere. Sierra Grouse says they did a live read per Pact. Where did you do that? I'm not going to do a live read again. Yeah, it's tough because like I think like I still enjoy the book a lot, but I think it is kind of I think there is a portion of doing it that like removes the emotion from the read because
Yeah.
like you're being performative, right? Like I'm not just thinking about the story, I'm thinking about the story and thinking about what I need to say about the story at the same time.
Right.
So I think after this book, if when we do other shows and other stories, I think if I'm going to do like a live tweet of anything, I'm probably going to want to read that section on my own first and just get to read it just that way. Could I hotspot from my phone? Maybe. I could try. We do have a guest wireless network that is usually a lot more unlocked, so I bet I could just try the guest wireless. That would probably work. I used to edit at work. Did I ever tell you that, Matt?
No.
This was a long time ago. This was before Worm, or maybe at the beginning of Worm. This is when I was still editing on my MacBook when I was still using GarageBand. I would because we would finish at night, and I would go to bed, and I would take my MacBook with me into work, and then I would just go hide in a office for an hour and edit it, and people would question why I had a MacBook open because we don't have any of those.
Yeah, just working.
It's just I'm special.
Yeah. Why are you asking? It's my question.
Yeah. The way everyone talks about Pact really makes me want to read it.
It's pretty awesome. Actually, awesome isn't a sufficient word. It's kind of like saying like, I don't know. It's hard for me to think of a comparison.
Normalizing all these things. Blinding Matt voice, part 2. Man, I'm so happy with the new That of You schedule. Just makes everything easier.
What did you change?
It's coming out Tuesdays instead of Thursdays now.
Okay.
Because the original hope was that we would record before Wednesday, but basically it just became us recording on Wednesday every week. And Wednesday is also our date night. We're like,
right.
I'm not supposed to be doing anything Doof related. But it just like increasingly just what happened that I would have to, and it was just making everything tight. And like Elisa's Wednesday afternoons normally have meetings too, so she gets home from work later than normal, and it just like everything was compressed, and it just wasn't working, and we would just run out of time all the time and make the show late. So finally we were just like, we can't do this. We can't keep doing this. Shrimp heaven now.
Well, good.
So we recorded on a Monday afternoon. As soon as I got home from work, we recorded. And then I edited it at like a little bit of the time last night, before and after my podcast with Adrian. And it's nice. It's nice knowing I don't have to come home from work tomorrow and do anything.
Yeah, that's great.
Except I think we are going to try to do something.
When does your podcast with Adrian come out?
I think he said Friday. I was excellent. I'm just like I was great.
I believe you.
They're asking you where in Pact you are.
I just whatever I last said in the channel.
It's not helpful.
I think I just finished. I don't know how to answer it without using a arc number, and I don't want to say an arc, and I don't know the arc number. Look at my phone, but I'm macroing right now, so it's impossible.
9.8. I'm guessing. I have no idea.
All right, let me look at my phone.
I think you said you were in Arc 9 last week, so I'm assuming you're still probably in Arc 9.
I'm gonna lose this game. Okay, I'm starting 10.6.
Damn it.
Yeah, you fucked up.
It's a bird. It's a plane. It's just Sarah Penguin. Sarah Penguin just joined our Discord. Hello,
Yay.
Sarah?
Welcome, Sarah Penguin. I'm sure you can hear me right now.
Well, they were in the chat, so...
Oh.
I think it's not ridiculous to say that. Matt, these two files are making this way more complicated than it needs to be.
Yeah. Blame
Canada?
Blame Canada, definitely. I mean, Canada is the reason we're doing this podcast.
Canada. That is true. It's very true. Okay, here's difficult part number 1. Is matching these two things. Okay.
Ditto.
I really love your intro music.
Thanks.
You need to release the new version.
Oh yeah.
You talked.
I will.
Should we
someday.
start the show? One. Hey everybody, welcome to We've Got Ward, a Doof Media podcast series where we expertly dissect and
said I was gonna
discuss
make a
Ward,
SoundCloud.
while those return to the world of parahumans. My name is Matt Freeman, and
If only there was some
Scott,
time that I could use to
should
do
we
things like
start
that.
the show?
I think we already have a SoundCloud.
Oh yeah, you're right. Definitely.
We just have to rebrand it from Daily Planet and remove the old podcasts off of it.
True. Yeah, they didn't like that. They didn't like us filling up their.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, make you pay for it.
yeah.
Profile. Let's see how many episodes we put up here. 5. No, episode 6. Here's a Halloween horror spectacular. Episode 6. I only see that and their lost episode. You'll be happy to know that our lost episode on SoundCloud has been played 41 times.
Wow.
Man.
This takes me back. I'm listening to Elisa's old intro.
Yeah, I remember that.
And all this other stuff that I really know nothing about because they made this really long list of things that they want to talk about and I can't even read through all of them, but it's gonna be great.
God, Scott, why was it so echoey?
Show.
Hello, and welcome to the Daily Planet podcast.
Oh my God, I was so not exciting at all. Why
Yeah,
did I talk so monotone?
Yeah, definitely don't go back and listen to like the first 5 episodes.
I literally listened to 3 seconds of it and had to stop it.
Yeah.
Why did I have no excitement in my voice at all? That's really annoying.
Yeah. Right. I mean, when I listen to myself, I'm like, was I even trying, or did I not know that this was bad? Which of the two?
Just your daily dose of movies, TV, books, and anything else we feel like talking about.
Oh my god, it's
My
so
name is Scott Daly,
bad.
editor-in-chief of DailyPlanetFilms.com.
Oh
and
my
I'm joined as always by
God,
my
it's
co-host.
So
see when they
bad.
get creative license. I mean, they had to, like you said, they have to keep selling you.
The first season, or at least the first couple seasons, had like actual thematic consistency as far as I remember. Like they seem to be
I can't believe we
asking
released
interesting
this.
questions about trust.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And
I feel the
honesty.
same.
And sacrifice. Sacrifice is a valid thing to talk about. It just becomes confusing when you make it sacrifice for this weird island you don't understand. They just lost their coherence at some point. Yeah, it's interesting because like I did love the show when I started watching it, and it just gradually lost me. And I think that's interesting. They threw in too many other weird things that made you stop caring.
They did, and it was interesting because I was talking to Michael Grubb.
Was it interesting, Scott? Because it doesn't sound like it was interesting. It sounds like it was not interesting at all because you have no emotion in your voice. I need to stop yelling it past me.
Yeah, go easy on him.
He didn't know what he was doing.
But how else do we learn except through terrible regret?
That's true. And then we just erase this from existence. How do we do that? How do we edit? No, don't edit that. Edit this. Delete track. Yep. Delete forever. Bye-bye. Knowing that this is still on our stream for anyone to
Right.
listen to anytime they want. Delete track. Delete forever. Okay, hey, making contact with the Martian. Delete track.
Come on. Look out of there.
I need to be editing this podcast. What am I doing?
Hey everybody, welcome to We've Got Ward, a Doof Media podcast series where we expertly dissect and discuss Ward, Wildbow's return to the world of parahumans.
Damn it.
My name is Matt
Fucking
Freeman,
Darren.
and Scott, should we start the show?
Trying some new things.
I
Not
don't
working.
know.
Should we not start the show?
Maybe. What do you think?
It's your decision.
Then I suppose I will foolishly plunge ahead. This is the weekly podcast where Matt and I eagerly dive into... I don't know if our opening joke really landed this week.
Yeah, I was gonna tell you that I wasn't too sure about it, but then I forgot and we just did it.
I mean, I don't know. When I read it, I was like, yeah, that works, but I don't know if the point of it really got across.
Well, it was one of those ones where it totally makes sense if you had already listened to our episode.
True.
The best kind, where it's completely impenetrable if you haven't.
That's mean.
What's mean?
They said, does our opening joke ever land? Yeah, it does. There was that one.
I'm still genuinely proud of my Nilbog introduction.
Oh yeah, I loved that one. I loved the one where we did the entities talking to each other, and then we
Yes.
said baby murder.
It's concerned.
It's really hard.
Confident. Sorry, that was what made the joke. Confident.
It's really hard to come up with these every
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. Okay. 1.
All right, just gotta find my new countdown. Is this the new countdown? Hey, play. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
If I were the countdown, how long do you think we had to pause
Yeah.
the show
Yeah,
for?
I agree.
10
5
minutes?
5 to 7 minutes.
5 minutes.
But
Okay.
I don't know. Yeah, maybe 7 to 10. 7 sounds like a
Hello.
reasonable
That
guesstimate.
works. All right, so how are we going to do this? So I just finished my little speech. Yeah, I want to read this quote. Okay. I'll count. Yeah, I'll count you
Okay.
down. All right, we are starting once again here in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
1.
Also, what we've done with the intro now is we actually have to write like 3 to 4 jokes because
True.
my little spiel has 2 references in it, which some weeks those are like super easy to write, and some weeks they're not.
Yeah.
Than this
Mhm.
is
less
still
so.
one of the greatest things that's driving her. Is this expectation that she puts on herself because everyone else did. And that's why that's why she gets so frustrated and so unsure because she's running up against failure, against things are falling apart, and it's got to be my fault. Only I can fix it, and if it's not being fixed, then I am failing, and I'm better than that. I think your mic just cut out. I can't hear you. You're back. After I stopped talking, I didn't hear anything you said, so. To push that blame onto Amy than it is to accept that she's blaming herself.
It's interesting. I read the reference to the stab of guilt as referring. That was how I interpreted. It's still throwing thoughts of that form at her, and it's still hitting her just as hard. So like accurate, but they still hurt. And thus she's gonna think them.
Well, and the thing that we have to editing a podcast all day, every day. The problem with our plan to get back to link together the parts where we had the split is I was talking for a very long time.
Mhm.
Then I move on and talk for a very long time again after that. So it's just 3 minutes of no Matt talking. Sorry.
Yeah, we did do the countdown though. So
Yeah, no, I mean it's easy to match. It's just I'm not talking about the editing. I'm talking about the content itself is just me talking uninterrupted for a very long time. Fixed, then I am failing. And I'm better than that. All right, so one of the things I just wanted to touch on before we move on is this one quote as she's kind of spiraling, this one thing she mentioned. She starts thinking about how no one really understood, and accepted her as herself. And then she says there had been... Also, the way I did us back for the countdown sounds much too like I'm doing something new and not like I was just organically continuing from the last thought. Oops. Better than that.
you know, I don't think anyone's
one of the
gonna
things I just wanted to touch on before
say anything. Honestly,
they're probably not. But you know me.
I do know you.
Spend too much time. Did Fugly Bob survive the apocalypse? I don't know. He could.
We'll have to find out, won't we?
Don't do that, because now... Fuck. I wrote that script a long time ago. And I wonder if I need to go back and read it and see if it would still work in today's part in the story. I think it would. I need to do some stuff. Need to change some stuff, but the problem was I think I wrote that script, and the reason why we never recorded it is because like I was like, this might be pushing our acting ability. Like this might be the point where like I can't actually act very well, and I might be demanding too much of myself.
Hey everybody, welcome to We've Got Ward, a Doof Media podcast series where we expertly dissect and discuss Ward, Wildbow's return to the world of parahumans, to the way Patreon does things. But of course we still certainly...
When I wrote that joke, I now listen to...
Thing good to come from any YouTube comment ever. I've got that.
I saw it was an interlude, and I'm very excited to find out who it is.
Yeah.
Is it going to be my long-awaited disjoint interlude?
No comment.
Clever. Bye-bye. Clever.
Comment.
Clever. You can't prove that. You can't prove that. I don't even know what a Fugly Bob is. I definitely didn't write any jokes after we found out about that other burger company that existed in this world. Definitely not. Didn't happen.
No.
You can't prove it. You got nothing on me.
No, we wouldn't have done that. That doesn't sound like us.
Alright, time to do timestamps. Why did I agree to this? Notepad. Intro. 11.8, 11.b. Community discussion. Outro. Okay. The intro begins at 30 seconds. I don't know why I include that one. That seems unnecessary. They all come crashing down on her at the same time while trying to fight one of... yeah.
And you're just waiting to see what.
And I mean, Colt is so passive throughout.
Keeps her head on the fight.
Yeah, so... funnily enough, Victoria replies no.
As usual.
There's absolutely no control over that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that. All right. Well, as usual, let's head on into these chapters for now.
Let's do it.
Yeah. So 11.8 opens up, and we continue from...
Like, just leave. Just go. If you don't leave, just bad shit's gonna happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And that is Colt.
Yeah.
We see and counting down to it.
Yeah, we're counting down to that discovery that the other team is not okay. So, and I think that lands. You know, I think the reader understands that a personal henchwoman. The chapter is broken up. I'm kind of bored of that now. So
yeah,
let's see what else there is. Yeah. All right. Speaking of spirals into a dark place, let's move on into 11.b.
All right.
Well, actually, first, Victoria checks on her little wrist dealie and sees that the other team is not okay. And then
that's important.
Yep.
Yeah.
Then we go into 11.b. Our second interlude chapter of this arc, and as expected, it's another member of Lovelost's gang. Though I don't think I saw anyone predict who, because it's Colt.
She's got this far range emotion sensing power, and she's able to inflict different.
Is a bit of a wild card in who knows what I mean by that exactly, but like she didn't just get a power; she got what seems like.
I just stumbled on a part where you said she's a bit of a wild card, and who knows what I mean by that. It's just I know what you meant by that statement, but it's just very funny. It's like nobody knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
In some sense.
Completely mysterious.
It certainly would be.
Oh God,
poetic, right?
Jesus Christ. God damn it.
Lovelost
created a monster.
Power to this girl. Yeah.
I like it.
Which
Why
show
am I
that she's
doing
not
so
learning
poorly?
any of her lessons, Love Lost.
Nope.
Jesus.
Exactly.
Not at all. So we're informed that the injured Breakthrough Siders, presumably.
Oh, good. Thank you very much for your giving us medical attention. Very nice.
Yeah, I mean,
Asshole.
so we're assuming that Samuel is like not already dead from his apparently so bad that he just like flopped over and didn't get up again, gunshot wound.
Yeah, but I mean, Colt's probably a bad aim. Like, it probably just hit his shoulder or something.
Yeah, well, I mean, she wasn't even aiming, so. In movies, whenever the person isn't aiming, that's when they get a headshot on the first time.
Yeah.
That's
And you know, the great part about movies is once you take the bullet out of that body,
they're fine.
first they're fine.
Yeah, it's a
It doesn't matter it doesn't matter the things in the body that have been ripped up as it travels through it. Once it's out of there, you're good,
yeah.
man.
It doesn't matter that the bullet dropped from supersonic to stationary within a few inches of your flesh.
Yeah, it is funny how
All right,
we consistently do this thing where we're like,
into the community spotlight.
well, we'll see what happens later. It's like everyone fucking already knows what happens later.
Literally everybody.
All right.
Old habits die hard, man.
I mean, I feel like using my simulation of what it's like to listen to the show, probably more fun if you're pretending that you're like reading along with someone, even though everyone knows that everyone has already read it.
I love that. I love that idea of her power represent like I am trying to come to me, and now we get to have our argument that I wanted to
Right.
have.
Yeah. I mean, it can be
over there. So go check it out.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you like any of our shows and you want to support them,
check it out.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you like any of
just need to move you a little bit out.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you like any of our shows and you want to support them,
and as always, you can find this and
or thoughts on this week's reading.
I love them so much.
And that's all we got for you this week on We.
See.
And that's all.
145 to 50. Hey, we've been under 2 hours for like 2 weeks in a row.
Nice.
Got the magic, baby. Fugly Bob didn't trigger. That's not something he would do.
I'm offended at the implication.
Yeah. Be like a codename Hamburglar.
Oh, god damn it.
Session is mixing down. Let's see what's new on the old Twitch. There's nothing on the old Twitch.
Nothing at all.
See what's going on the old Steam. Oh, Matt.
So,
what's going on Saturday for you?
Like at night?
Yeah.
I don't think I have any night plans.
Okay. I think we were trying to target that for the StarCraft finals.
Excellent.
Michael said he was free, so if you are free, I will let the two competitors know, and if they are free, we will make it happen.
Yes, I believe I am.
Okay. And hopefully, it will be a one-night affair, depending on how this goes.
Right.
Are you still doing random, or are you back to your Protoss?
Back to Protoss. I'm trying to get better at non-one base all-ins.
Okay. Nobody in the Discord liked the name of my future King Killer seminar.
What did you call it?
You may have heard of me.
Oh, I love it. Wait, was that your idea?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought that was just an actual thing that existed already.
No, that was my idea.
That's awesome.
Yeah, let me just invent an additional 6 hours in a week to do it. Should be no problem, right?
Yeah, let me know when you finish with that project.
Will do. Oh, I guess I can prep Libsyn. Good old Libsyn. I wonder how much longer this arc is going to be. It feels like we're coming to a head, but I also haven't read the latest chapter, so it might be an illusion. Like I forget which arc it was where we thought it was going to end like 6 times, and we were wrong all but one of them.
Yeah, I don't have any particularly strong sense that like, oh yeah, it's totally wrapping up.
Wildbow just said, so do I, so wonders when the arc is going to end.
Because there was one when I was like, I just remember being like, and this is clearly the last, this is clearly the end, and then then went on.
Yeah. Can I make a no doubt joke in the show notes? Let me think about this.
Think about whether you want to bring this into your life.
Hold on. Let me, what are the most popular no doubt songs? Arcs are just a construct, Wildbow says.
That's what I always say.
I mean, to me, the most popular No Doubt song is Don't Speak, right? But that song came out in 1995, when most of our listeners probably didn't exist yet. So I don't know if referencing a No Doubt song that came out in 1995 is going to be a joke that works. Don't speak, Victoria. I know just what you're thinking. I know just what you're saying. Jeez. I would play this song, but then we'd get flagged.
Yeah.
If we were on Twitch, I could do it. Twitch is better.
Twitch actually loves us.
They do. They loved us immediately. YouTube rejected us. Bastards. In this week's episode, there's very little doubt. No, it doesn't work. I'm overthinking this. There's gonna be a doubt joke here. I'm gonna find it. I regret to inform you that this week's episode I made the baby joke last week, so I can't make it again.
No.
I regret to inform you that we doubt that this week's episode ends very well for our characters. Not really,
Seems accurate.
not really a joke. No doubt. There's a lot of pressure because that one guy said that our out of episode jokes were very funny. I'm feeling the heat. I regret to inform you that this week's episode was slightly longer than last week's episode. Which is the worst thing that could happen.
Yeah, we're backsliding. Might as well just give up.
Yep. That's how you do it, right? That's how all the characters in this story are handling it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Little setback, just fucking give up.
Yep. That's how I always feel about everything in general in life.
So depressing, Matt. Wednesday at 6 a.m. I loved my Faramir joke a lot too. And that's just because that's like a thing I say all the time, even when it doesn't apply. Like whenever I'm about to do something, I'll be like, looks like it's time for Scott, Captain of Gondor, to show his quality.
It always just does apply. I mean,
It does.
I don't understand the problem.
Mm-hmm. I hate the new WordPress. It is so bad. I saw some bloggers complaining about it on Twitter today.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of avoided talking about that in the show, Wildbow, where you made the baby fetuses taste like urine. That was cool.
I needed to know how they tasted personally.
There's a way to get rid of the stupid blocks. Wildbow, you must tell me immediately. iuse.com. I hate stupid blocks. I hate them so much. They're so stupid. I don't want to block. I just want to copy paste in text. I'm very uppity tonight. I apologize. I think it was yelling at Colt that set me off.
Yeah. Got under your skin.
The newest version of WordPress like has blocks.
Yeah. It helps you. It's helping you.
I can let me show you what I mean. I'm just sorry, Matt. I'm gonna block you.
Block me.
No, actually, I can just share my screen real quick. Let's do that. Do. I don't think there's no like sensitive information on this, is there? No.
Probably not.
There's only like 10 people in here. It's fine. Window capture. Oop. No, not window capture. Display capture. So, what I mean by that is... Get out of here. Is these things. So, like, they're these stupid blocks. And you can copy paste stuff in and it works fine, but to actually, like, so I want to add HTML when I actually release this episode. I don't get to just copy in the HTML. I have to go, boop, add custom HTML block, write HTML. It's just like, and it means like, so when I want to delete stuff, like I delete this here because I don't need to tell people that are on the website to go to the website, and it's just like a pain in the ass. Like it doesn't like you deleting blocks this way. It wants you to go like, click on this, remove block. Click on this, remove block. Click on this, remove block. It's just stupid. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. No, not worm. Not worm. Ward. I just wish there was a way I could just go back to the old method. Like... I also hate that all this stuff is over here. Like the first time I switched, I could not find where to put a feature image, and it was driving me crazy. I just don't like any of this. Just don't like any of this at all. Hey, the file is done. Export file. Podcasts. We've got Word Final 11.4. Thanks, Synth. We'll catch you tomorrow, probably.
Yeah, later.
If I'm using .com, I can go to settings, writing. Please be right. Please be right. Oh, wait, no. Definitely save these changes first. Where is the... What? Oh, there it is. Settings, writing. Hey, I said save it. Hurry up. Saved. Okay. Settings, writing. It's not working. It's not working. Bummer. I don't see it. Oh well. I'm stuck forever.
Sorry, you're stuck forever.
You should,
Track.
you should be.
Forever is a long time.
You should be sorry. I'm not tired. I know it's 1 a.m, but I'm not tired.
Yeah, once I get going, I'm less tired. I'm not gonna say I'm not tired. That would be a lie.
Mm-hmm. Don't see a switch to Classic Editor. Why is there not a switch to Classic Editor?
All right. I'm about done with that.
Congratulations.
To watch me lose StarCraft over and over and over and over.
Bad day.
Yeah, I mean, trying different things rather than just doing the same thing that I know wins.
January 23rd. Yes, that's today. And okay. Okay, well, I wish.
Did we do it?
We did it. It's done. I just wish I had this, cool go back to the old way button.
It's probably like a plug-in, right?
It might be. Stupid. Stupid. Hey, where did Matt go? Oh, there he is.
I don't know. I'm gone.
Oh, yeah, it is a plugin. Thank you. I am definitely going to install that because I hate it. All right, well, is it time?
I think so. That time, everyone. It's time for bed.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Bed, the place you go every night so you don't go crazy or die. This week on Bed, you're going to dream.
Yeah.
And depending on what you've been reading or watching, they're gonna be weird.
Yeah. And you probably won't remember them.
Yeah.
That's the sad part.
I hate it. I wish I remembered all my dreams. I don't remember any of my dreams, ever.
Yeah.
The only dreams I remember are the dreams I have after I wake up, but when I go back to sleep, when I should be getting up to go to work, but I don't because I'm lazy.
For a period of time, I did dream journaling where you just wake up and the first thing you do is you just like set aside a few minutes to just try to remember them. And if you do that, then you almost always can. It's just they don't jump into your head immediately. So you almost always do have them available if you look for them. But no one takes the time for it, including me, even though I know how.
Yeah, I mean, that would require me to have like a level of functionality upon immediately waking up in the morning that I just don't have.
Yeah, that's another good point.
But I could probably try. Anyway, let's close this thing down.
Good night.
Good night, everyone. Hope you enjoyed the episode, and we'll see you next week. Or on Twitch, probably, when we're doing StarCraft. But okay, bye.